Today is the day. Thousands of players put their name in the ring. Only 8 remained yesterday, down to 6 today, vying for their shot at that $25,000 prize, as well as that final community golden ticket. Hello, everybody. I am Andrew Guy, joined as always by Joshua, AC, Sharon. AC, we had a great day of competition yesterday, but there were really 2 standouts. Lucas from Brazil and our defending world champion Mugi from Japan were untouchable, it seemed like, through our first day of playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what happens when you're a true professional. You know, you start off hot. Actually, I was doing the research on it. I was looking through Royale API. I was combing through the deck, seeing what I could, muster up. And both of those players, all right, listen to this. So both of the players started out 0-1 for the day. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Both players ended 4-1. And the other 2 things that I wanted to look at, Lucas, he used Drill once, Golem once, and Mortar 3 different times. Mugi used RG twice and Drill twice, and then lost with a Graveyard Cannon card deck. So both of these players have found their decks. They really know what they're doing, and they just want to play.
Yeah, Lucas controlling the game with minor control yesterday, and of course Mugi putting on a masterclass with Royal Giant. We'll see if they shake things up today, but first, AC, talk to me about our event overview. It's the last time that we get to do this, as today is the last day of Royale Masters Gold Edition.
That's right. The first 3 weeks, it was qualifiers 1, 2, and 3. You wanted to win because it would guarantee you a top 4 total qualification points. Shvatzen was one of the lucky few who did not win, but was still able to qualify. He made it to the playoffs alongside 3 others. Then week 4, we had the wild card open. If you finished top 4 in that, you started off pretty hot in this week's games. You know, something about the momentum. If you finished top 4 in the wild card open, you also made it to the playoffs. You made it to the top 8, and those top 8 players made it to the playoffs, going for that golden ticket.
That's right, and our top 8 players navigated beautifully through our Royale Masters duel format. For all of you that don't know, it's a best-of-3 duel format for the most part, except all of our elimination games will be best of 5s, which means you got to pay even closer attention to this. Yes, duels format, so game number 1, either player can play whatever deck they want. All cards are available. However, in game 2, if you won game 1, you cannot repeat any of those 8 cards. If you lost, though, anytime you lose with the deck, you can repeat any of those cards. Anytime you win with the deck, those cards are no longer available for that given set. And our playoff format, as I was just talking to you guys about, best of 3s were the majority of our day yesterday. Today, it's going to be best of 5s for the most part. Top 4 qualifiers, top 4 from Wildcard Open got us to where we were yesterday. Double elimination format got us to where we are today. We said goodbye to Shvatzen. We said goodbye to Tatone. We gave them $1,500. And now best of 5 for all of our elimination matches, and that includes our grand final. And of course, the winner receives the golden ticket for our Clash Royale League World Championship here in 2022. And AC, it has been quite the run that we're going on. Yes, the golden ticket is what it's all about, but there's a lot of money up for grabs. $50,000 in the prize pool for this entire tournament, but just $25,000 for this weekend.
That's right, $25,000 before, but none of that matters now. First place gets $10,000 and that golden ticket. Ooh. Second place, $6,000. Third place, fourth place, $3,000, $2,000. 5th and 6th will walk away with $1,500 and $1,000. And you already talked about it. We already finalized the top 6. The 7th and 8th walked away with $800 and $700.
And let's take a look at our bracket. To remind those of you that were not here yesterday, it was a great day of battles. As AC said, both of our top players in Mugi and Lucas started off 0-1 in terms of games, but then it was just absolute domination from there on out. You can see all the action at the top of the bracket, but we're actually going to start in our elimination bracket. Our first matchup of the day is going to be Wallace versus Furkan. Both of them only have 1 life to give, so everything down in the lower bracket will be best of 5 and elimination games. Then we're going to go to Greco and Pandora. After that, we're going to hop back up to our winners bracket, where we will see Lucas and Mugi face off in a best of of 3, and that should be the only best of 3 of the day. Then we'll go back down to the elimination bracket, then back up to our grand final. So a lot of hopping around, and if you guys want to follow along with that, of course, join Royale Masters on Discord, follow them on Twitter. That'll guide you to where you need to be to see all the information. Big shout out to our admin team, including our lead admin, Dawson, who's been doing an excellent job of getting all of our games ready, helping us do dual casting throughout our qualifiers. And remember, this is the last day of the Royale Masters Gold Edition. Now, to go back to the matter at hand, Furkan and Wallace. AC, Wallace was one of our favorites going into the day yesterday, and I think he still is one of our favorites, but he struggled just a little bit in his second set of the day. Anything that popped out to you about Furkan or about Wallace in general? Because it seemed like Wallace started a little hotter, Furkan was one that needed warming up.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I kind of expected it, but also was kind of shocked by both of the players. You know, both of those players are probably my number 1 and number 2 players to watch when it comes to, like, not super recognized as like a top 3, top 5 player in the world. Right. And yeah, you know, both of the players played well, but we're missing a few things. Wallace was definitely the one that really felt like something was off in day number 1.
That's right. Based off of what we saw from him throughout the year and in our wild card open, Wallace was just on top of absolutely everything in terms of deck choice, macro, micro interactions. And yesterday, I feel like he just missed there was a bit of a hitch in his step, if you will. So now we're going to go into our very first matchup of the day. Best of 5. Wallace top of your screen. Furkan at the bottom. Both trying to stay alive and keep their golden ticket dreams going. Here in Royale Masters Gold Edition, Furkan going to go to Hog Rider Firecracker. Meanwhile, it looks like Wallace is going to be going to Fishboy Hunter with Royal Giant. And you can see right there, Snowball going to come in and knock that Hunter away. Hunter's still going to probably clean up that Hog Rider. And it looks like we might...
Beautiful. I'll take over because mine's actually working perfectly. So we have the Firecracker cleaning up the Zappies over the middle. We do see the start of a push. There is the middle of the push. Now it's dependent on Wallace. He does get the Fisherman out. Hog will not get the second shot, and a beautiful defensive sequence by Wallace.
Yeah, and that's the best way to break it down. He sequenced that perfectly. He goes Giant Skeleton up high, Fishboy late to pull the Hog away, gets the King Tower activation, is down in damage, but since he's running Graveyard, there's the Graveyard coming out for the first time. You have to imagine that single Elixir is where Wallace has to be the most scared about damage coming in and where he can take the most damage.
I was... very intimidating for Furkan. Does waste the log on the right side. Giant Skeleton would not have made it to the tower. That way Wallace was able to get that really, you know, solid push going. But I mean, Earthquake is just so strong against Graveyard, and it cleans it up so nicely.
2203 to 1807 as Wallace resets here. Skelly King plus 2 Zappies go down the left-hand lane. Fishboy going to be placed perfectly here, and with the help of the Zappies, that should be 0 damage in.
Inferno Tower plot, you know, pop down over the middle. It will be able to target the Hunter. So until the heart, okay, Hunter does walk outside of the range. Valk will be placed on top of all the troops. Kind of surprised by the low Valkyrie right there. I think it would have been a little bit easier to just place the Valk on top.
So Furkan goes in with another Hog Rider push here. Fishboy does get the Hog last second there. Nice snipe by the Fisherman as this Firecracker's putting in some good work against that Giant Skeleton. Will be capped off with the Inferno Tower. And then here you go, AC, as you were just talking about, singing its praises. Earthquake timed perfectly against that Graveyard, doing a really good job cleaning things up.
Now the question is, can he finally get that Hog shot? And that's absolutely what happens. 1:45 left in the game. Finally gets the Hog shot down to 1262. Oh wow, arrows is shown from Wallace, and so this could be the start of something. But I mean, I think we're just gonna see an Earthquake again, clean it up all, and just another nice defensive sequence by Furkan.
Few Skellies piling up there at the very end. 1497 now to 1262, but Furkan's got to be feeling the weight shifting a little bit towards his opponent. He sets up an Inferno and now a high Fisherman here to kind of set the line and also try to pull that Firecracker, and lastly make sure that Hog doesn't get too much value. Now you can see Wallace just cycling everything in that right-hand lane as Furkan was very patient with when he wanted to drop that Hog Rider in. Firecracker should get good value as well, but a high Hunter to respond.
Yeah, that's a beautiful push. Does force out the Hunter at the bridge. Wallace just trying to set up. He needs that triple elixir push. He needs the giant skeleton in the back, the Zappies for the help. The Hunter opposite lane, something to take the aggro of the Infernotar, and we haven't been able to see that just yet. I mean, with the arrows, he should be able to get an actual push going, but so far, Furkan has been able to stop it.
Double Inferno Tower played there. Furkan opting to just go strictly for the defense. Log plus EQ there at the bridge. That was a very, very nice defensive sequence there from Furkan, but still, damage is piling up. Fisherman's on the tower. Firecracker in the back shooting just a little bit too slow, and that should be enough for Wallace.
Yeah, that's going to be it. Oh my goodness, gets the damage that he needs, and it really was dependent on just one push. Could he break the defense down and somehow I mean, all his Zappies were taken off the board. All the troops were taken off the right side, but something about triple elixir, he wasn't able to get the earthquake down, and tower's gone.
Yeah, I mean, and that's clearly what Wallace was looking for the whole time. You see the matchup actually leans really heavily in favor of Wallace, which shows you how well Furkan played through that first, call it what you want, 4.5 minutes. But there at the end, you can kind of see that Wallace, it didn't ever feel like he was losing his grounds or losing his bearings. It felt like he was just waiting for that triple elixir to come in, and then he could start to truly punish, which is why when that triple elixir hit, Furkan kind of doubled, tripled, quadrupled down just on defense. And I think that's probably the best way to go, because Zappy's being split in the middle with the Hunter and having that snowball just in case was really not going to allow many hog hits in and triple. And for Wallace, I think he did exactly what he wanted in that game, even though it might have gotten a little dicey for his fans at home.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I noticed a few times that he was using the Hunter with the snowball, not trying to give up any damage whatsoever, and I was thinking that Furkan was possibly going to adjust with the Firecrackers up top, and we saw him do it once, I think only once, maybe twice, but then Wallace immediately followed it up with a Hunter at the bridge. So Wallace was kind of setting himself up for triple elixir. He was okay with a bit of damage, but really he was just trying to limit it all so that way it was close, and then triple elixir, that's when he could turn it up.
And I really like the deck choice here by Wallace. Wallace has opted to go to Graveyard quite a bit throughout this competition. It almost feels like he's been the guy that's leaned on Graveyard the most, and different versions of it. Yesterday we saw him running a version of Splash Yard. Obviously we just saw this version with the arrows, the Zappies, and the giant Skelly. I like that he's running Graveyard. I also love that he's running it in game 1 of a best of 5. That leaves him so open for the rest of his entire set, not using a lot of cards that kind of overlap with the best meta decks currently out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly what you need to be doing. And I think it's gonna be really cool, because we're finally getting to see a lot of best of 5s in succession. And so, it's all these players are going to watch each other and try and figure out, okay, what is he doing that I'm not? Why is this working for him? What kind of matchups is he getting, games 2, games 3, games 4 because of it? And so Wallace is somehow, some way a firm believer in Graveyard. I am not, but as long as he feels comfortable with it, I love that as a game number 1. It really sets himself up to be able to use those RGs, those Mortars, those Royal Hogs in games 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, and we know that Wallace loves to play all of those win conditions. We're going to hop into game number 2 right now. Furkan down 1. And that conversation that you're talking about in games 3, 4, and 5, AC, is something that both these guys are going to have to think about, as are their analysts, because every single matchup they're in today is going to be a best of 5, because they are always on the verge of being eliminated. And games 3, 4, and 5 is where things can really either excel in terms of analyzation, or where the wheels can fall off. So Wallace doing a good job there in game number 1. Furkan, it's kind of a non-factor because he can repeat any of those cards. And it looks like he could be going to Mortar. Wallace looking like he's going to Drill.
Yep, Drill shown so far. Is Archer Queen going to pop the ability right now? There we go, we do see it. How does Wallace want to defend? And a high Mortar, it felt like we knew that he was going to have to respond with something, so it's kind of Surprised he didn't want to wait and just kind of bait out the response.
Yeah, instead he kind of gives away a bit of elixir there, Wallace does, but now has a decent counter push coming in, but Furkan has a lot of elixir to deal with it. Skelly's on one side, and he decides to just eat the magic archer shots on the other, opting to send in some piggies. And Mini P.E.K.K.A not the best response to those piggies, and no King Tower activation there for Wallace, so unfortunate interactions awry for the Brazilian.
Yeah, shocking non-King Tower activation.
Wow. Wow, okay, so I agree. He doesn't get the King Tower activation, and pretty surprising there, but 2 shots come in from that Mini P.E.K.K.A and kind of even the playing field.
Yeah, that was a huge misstep right there for Furkan. All he had to do was place the Archer Queen up top. It would have taken the aggro from the Mini P.E.K.K.A. He would have walked, and all would have been fine. Instead, down 600 HP as we enter double elixir.
A Royal Hogs plus Cannon Cart push here. Golden Knight going to do nicely against most of that, plus the E-Wiz, but then Furkan goes, all right, you want to give me all that poison value? I will take it. E-Wiz will stay alive as the first drill comes in here from Wallace. And that is a value log and a half.
Yeah, all of a sudden the momentum is all for Furkan. He will be able to go in with another Royal Hogs push if he chooses. Instead, goes in with the defensive mortar. And this is the second time from Furkan. I believe we saw him use the minor Royal Hogs mortar. And he just loves, you know, setting himself up with multiple win conditions when he pairs the mortar with the Royal Hogs.
And speaking of multiple win conditions, one of those win conditions for Wallace just connects there. Golden Knight gets on the tower again. So a Golden Knight dash and 2 Mini P.E.K.K.A hits from Wallace is what brings that tower down to 707. And Furkan honestly should have just been in control this entire game, but 2 small defensive missteps make this much closer than he'd probably like. 346 though to 707.
I love that he also used the cannon cart up top. That's exactly what you want to see. He didn't want to allow for a win just based off the Magic Archer at the bridge. He pressured a lot. I was going to say you either have to defend with mortar or you have to just spam the bridge up top to win that bridge battle. Beautiful recognition of the situation, and Furkan takes game number 2.
Yeah, great game number 2 there from Furkan, running the Royal Hogs Mortar Poison deck with AQ and Valkyrie. You can see right there on the left-hand side of your screen, 11 Elixir 4-card cycle and 3.8 to get all the way back around. Actually cycles relatively quickly, and you look at the defensive capabilities, they're very, very strong. You can deal with air, you can deal with ground, you kind of got it all. And then, of course, those poisons both came in with some great value. Wallace on the other side of it, running a different version of one of the most popular decks in the game. And, you know, it's interesting because the missed King Tower activation really ended up hurting him a lot later on, because what he had to do is he'd have to spend the Royal Ghost plus something else, whether it was the Golden Knight or the E-Wiz and the Golden Knight. And every single time that happened, it gave great poison value to Furkan. But I think a big part of that all comes back to the fact that the King Tower was not activated. You had been able to just take a couple more of those piggy shots, and it would have been less damage over time if you took out those poisons. So that one mistake starting early on started a cascading effect for Wallace, to where he was just kind of on his back foot the entire time. If it wasn't for that crazy Mini P.E.K.K.A in the beginning, that would have been a completely Furkan-dominated game.
Yeah, I think the matchup overall was just really solid because, you know, with no big spell, he can start stacking, and then Royal Hogs will always give value because either A, you over defend and then you give poison value, or B, you under defend and Royal Hogs pretty much take out the entire tower. So yeah, just really good situation. Unfortunate King Tower missed activation.
Yeah,
and it's always, you know, you place your defensive troop. When you pair a defensive troop with the NATO, it's always so cut and dry. You know, you place the defensive troop on the outside and then you inside the 2 Royal Hogs to the King Tower. Right there, I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was, you know, him just trying to make the exact right play. But, you know, doesn't get the activation and loses game number 2 that way.
So looking at our first 2 games of play here, Furkan not able to use Poison, Mortar, Log, or Valkyrie. And also Archer Queen. Those are some big cards to think about maybe in terms of trying to go with Royal Hogs, although Fireball's still being available. And then for Wallace on the other side of it, there's still a lot available. The only spells that he's used are Snowball and Arrows. So the biggest thing that's missing for him is Skeleton King, Giant Skelly, Zappies. Those are all great support cards. Fisherman being out means that we probably won't be seeing Royal Giant from Wallace in this set, but still could be an option. And now Wallace looking like he could be either going to Control or going to E-Giant. We'll see if that's going to be the Flying Machine version that got very popular, looking more and more like it as of right now. Beautiful King Tower activation.
Yeah, gorgeous King Tower activation. Wallace in a great situation, and he will be using the E-Giant Furkan on the other side. Still not totally sure actually what he's going to be running. Okay, so it is going to be the drill deck that we've seen get very popular. Wallace on the flip side, just that E-Giant mirror is going to be devastating.
Yeah, very curious to see which version Wallace is running. And another E-Giant here to defend. That's probably the best play in hand for Wallace. It's going to deal with those Zappies well, and of course keep that Giant Skeleton from causing too much damage. But you have to look at this counter push that's starting to build for Furkan.
Yeah, the Zappies, two of the Zappies were actually targeted onto the Golden Knight, and so they were able to stay alive for a lot longer than I think Wallace really would have wanted.
And the cannon not pulling the Golden Knight gets right on through to the tower, plus this bar barrel, which means Wallace will have to respond to the Magic Archer. He goes high with the Golden Knight here. Now down in Elixir by quite a bit. That's going to be an easy counter push for Furkan to deal with, which means there's going to be one more full cycle here where we won't be seeing an E-Giant in the correct position. Instead has to play it defensively on top of the drill. Not the worst play out there.
Yeah, I think the defense overall was pretty decent. Zappies are going to be spammed right at the bridge. Kind of surprised that he played them all the way at the bridge, just trying to take it out, get it down to sub 50% HP. And the Giant Skeleton, with the help of the bar barrel, will be able to clean up the rest of the E-Giant.
Yeah, those aggressive Zappies, not really an orthodox play, but they end up paying off pretty well there, just trying to slow that E-Giant enough, get enough damage in, and now we see our first double E-Giant here from Wallace. And a drill comes out defensively for the first time. That's a nice moment there for the Brazilian, just knowing that he doesn't have to worry about a big offense coming in, as he's created so much offensive pressure himself. And that is a great chain there from the Golden Knight. What a beautiful NATO.
Yeah, gorgeous NATO right there. Does get a lot of damage onto the tower, 2492 to 2397. Wallace in a situation where he can just really start spamming the E-Giants in the back. We are going to see opposite lane. Here we go. And yeah, this is exactly what Wallace wants, and this is exactly what Furkan did not want. He is going to struggle a lot trying to get this final damage, but that is a great Magic Archer on the tower.
Yeah, the high Skellies there to pull the Dark Prince actually did a good job in distracting that Magic Archer, but Magic Archer still lines up. Golden Knight gets back on the tower. Another E-Giant in play here by Wallace in that right-hand lane, just using the E-Giants for everything, offensive and defensive alike. No connection, though, on either side, and that is a ocean of blue on that right-hand side of the board. But should be pretty easy to clean up. That cannon putting in some work.
Yeah, gorgeous cannon. Bomber will be able to get the bomb shot onto the drill. None of the goblins know. Some of the goblins are able to get their stabs on the tower. And the Golden Knight is going to dash across, but then, you know, transfer back over the bridge. And it will force out a cannon to finalize the Magic Archer.
You know, E-Giant is such a strong win condition out there, but Furkan being one of the better E-Giant players in the world, and you can see right now, not letting any of Wallace's tricks get to him. Wallace in a position now with only 35 seconds remaining. He doesn't have enough time to spell cycle. We don't know what his last card is. Could be Rocket, could be Lightning, could be Earthquake, but either way, he's not able to start cycling them. Game is too far gone. So now it's just spam E-Giants and pray for the best.
Yeah, this is just a gorgeous display of defense from Furkan. I mean, spamming drills in the middle, Giant Skeletons getting value, Zappies at the bridge, in the back, in the middle. Everything was done right there, and that was just, this was beautiful from Furkan.
And there you see the rocket finally comes out from Wallace, now dropping 2 games in a row. And I think that Goblin kind of says it all for Wallace. That had to have been an incredibly frustrating matchup, just completely controlled by Furkan. You said it, AC. That defense was so on point. Magic Archers never getting cleaned off the board. Numerous times where we saw 2 sets of Zappies cycle down to just completely slow up that E-Giant. And of course, putting in the DPS was that Dark Prince. Beautiful stuff there from the man from Turkey.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, I'm surprised to see 7 drills. It really felt like he wasn't using drill that often. You know, it was more defense over offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you control the game as well as he did. And actually, no, now that I think about it, he was just using the drill on defense a lot. So like,
yeah,
you know, 3 of the drills were on offense, but I would assume at least 4 of them were used on defense. And it was all about the Magic Archer chip alongside just solid defense and trying to eventually overwhelm. And I mean, he overwhelmed time and time again.
And he never gave away the rocket value earlier in the game, even with Magic Archers cycled in the back or Zappies all cycled in one lane. And I think that was a big part of controlling that matchup for Furkan, because keeping up the pressure and playing defense the way he did, never allowing that rocket value to come out, means he never had to worry about the spell cycle game catching up with him. And because that was a non-factor, he could use those drills defensively and not even worry about losing an offensive sequence or an offensive cycle. It was like, okay, let me send in a drill. Okay, I got a little bit of chip damage. I've been ahead in damage for quite some time now. So now I'm just going to defend. And then if you start to cycle rockets, that's when Furkan could get back on the aggressive offense. But since that was never something that Wallace could do, it was, again, just a completely controlled game, perfectly controlled by Furkan. So Wallace drops 2 games in a row and now finds himself in an elimination set in an elimination game. This could be the last time we see Wallace here in Royale Masters, and he might have to reset in a week and just start grinding that 20-win challenge to try to make it through that CRL qualifier that begins in a week from today. And obviously that will be in a brand new meta in a brand new season. So a lot of things will be up in the air for that. This is really the last opportunity to kind of lock down your golden ticket with the meta that we've been living in for a while, which I feel like, and it usually happens this way by the end of the meta, where you're like, okay, I know exactly what decks I need to run. I know exactly what I should play. I know what I'm best at. I know what I struggle at or I struggle with the most. And so when you talk about that reset next week in the 20-win challenge, I think it's going to be a really interesting thing to see, at least the first few days of that competition.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what people bring out. I can't wait to see what challenges are going to happen in that, you know.
Yeah.
3 years ago, there was all sorts of like 1.6 elixir cycle decks and, you know, Surgical Goblin, Samuel Basoto. I think Basoto got like a 1.7 elixir cycle deck his first try or something crazy like that. So, you know, with the 21 challenge, it always brings out the best in a lot of these players. And yeah, I actually, like, until you started talking about the 20-win, I wasn't really that excited for it. And now that it's like bringing up, you know, core memories of my Clash Royale life, I gotta say I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, 20-win challenge is one of the coolest things that was ever introduced into the game. I mean, just getting 12 wins in a GC is something that's very difficult for most people to play the game. And then you add in 8 more on top of that, and it really does separate the good from the great. So going back to the set that we're currently in here with Furkan up 2-1, let's taking a look here at Furkan. He picked up the last 2 games. So a lot of things now out of play for Furkan. Bar Barrel out, Drill out, Golden Knight out, Archer Queen out. Poison is no longer available, along with Log, Tornado. And then when you talk about win conditions strictly, Royal Hogs is the big one that's missing. And I did just mention Drill. So no Valk, no Poison, no Log, no NATO, no Magic Archer, no Barrel. You wonder if maybe, I mean, if there's no Bar Barrel and there's no Log, it feels like Furkan has to bring out arrows. Because if he has the threat of running into bait, that could be a really, really tough matchup. So I'd be curious to see where Wallace wants to go. Looks like Wallace is going to go not to bait, though, with NATO being played early on, but still decent cycle with Skellies and Fire Spirit. Furkan going back to Hog Rider.
Oh, cycles the drill on the left, or cycles the drill on the right side, and at the exact same moment, Furkan cycles the bomber on the left, and that's going to be a really nice Magic Archer lock. That interaction could have gone so much differently if the Knight wasn't played, and then, you know, Musketeer wouldn't have been necessary. Just kind of unfortunate interactions for Furkan to start these first, or, you know, start this first minute.
And you can see Furkan, though, did set himself up in case he did run into bait, giving himself the Fire Spirit, because there is that interaction of placing one unit, then the Fire Spirit to deal with the barrel, and then, of course, does have the Royal Delivery. So an early rocket here from Furkan, a pretty aggressive rocket. I'm never one to just naked rocket tower in single elixir, but Furkan must feel very confident about that play.
Yeah, with NATO as a response and a quick cycle with drill, I guess he thought that his best play was to try and get the rocket cycle, you know, already started. But just looking at this matchup face value, just trying to analyze what's going to happen throughout, you have to assume this is a heavy matchup advantage for Wallace. He has such a quick cycle, the NATO and the Inferno Tower for these Hogs.
And there you go. Hog Rider cycled in the back, and another rocket comes in. So Furkan has already fully committed here to the rocket cycle. And I agree, AC, when you look at the responses that Wallace has, the drill, the NATO, the Inferno Tower, the log, all of that, Furkan's got to stop giving up that magic archer value if he wants to win here with the rocket cycle. 1205 to 1933. Furkan getting back close to another rocket.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, but in these kind of matchups, you really have to tell yourself, oh, I need to predict every single magic archer. I cannot let a single magic archer get to the tower, you know, get any kind of damage whatsoever. If you allow it, you just automatically lose.
So the Hog Rider being NATO to King actually does mess up the sequence of Wallace's offense just a little bit as the Fire Spirit and the Golden Knight turn around, but it doesn't really matter. Still damage came in from the Goblins. That drill will take care of the bomber. Back around to NATO is Wallace. And you talk about matchup conversations. Wallace has this one in spades. Goblins are on that tower. Tower is basically gone now. Fire Spirit will connect, and now this becoming a two-tower situation for Furkan. You just see him selling out here at the river.
Yeah, not gonna matter. Beautiful defense from Wallace. Once again, no shots on the tower. He had every answer available to him. The NATO, the Inferno Tower, the quick cycle, and then also just great magic archer pressure at the bridge as well. And so set number 1 is going to go to game number 5. Pretty much exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, that's you know, we saw a lot of our sets go the distance yesterday. It was only those 2 best of 3s in the upper bracket that did not. Everything else went to 3 or to 5, which was an awesome day of competition. And the matchup conversation isn't even as heavily favored in Wallace's direction as I would have thought. But, you know, I like that Furkan knew what he needed, or at least thought he knew what he needed to do early on. He was cycling those rockets. It wasn't a massive elixir deficit every single time, but I don't really know if there was a way out of that matchup.
Yeah, basically, I like what he did. I like the recognition of going in with a rocket cycle. I think if he plays this matchup again, he will make it closer, but I think the end result would be the exact same thing. I think Wallace played it way too well. The pressure that he did was immaculate, and then he also just had some solid magic archers. His magic archers always got value. You know, when his opponent would finally try and, you know, get the predictions, he would just place it, you know, in the middle of the arena. And so it was just a great job from Wallace, and the right ideas from Furkan.
Yeah.
You know, we saw Hog in the back. We saw Inferno, or, you know, the rocket cycle and try to get around to the next one. But yeah, it was just way too much to cover, and just too big a lead early on.
So now thinking about and predicting what our players might bring out in game number 5 here. Obviously, this is the last game of the set. This is an elimination game. One of them will be saying goodbye after these next 5 minutes of gameplay. I still like the idea of Wallace going to bait or mortar. I do think that Wallace, maybe his best bet is to go mortar with, yeah, I mean, maybe mortar Archer Queen could be something great, because, you know, he still has Miner available, he still has Poison available, he still has Fireball available, and having Mortar with Archer Queen and maybe Valkyrie could be something that'd be really good. I still like the idea of bait also, but for some reason, you know, we haven't seen Wallace play a ton of bait, but looking at the things that are unavailable for Furkan, I still think that's a decent idea. And I also still believe that maybe going to Lava Hound could be a good idea, but it's hard to say that because we didn't see any lava yesterday. We have seen very little success with lava over the last couple weeks, but no Poison, no Archer Queen, no Magic Archer, no Tornado available for Furkan. All those cards being out of the mix does make it just a little bit more enticing. And then when you look what Wallace has, oh, sorry, go ahead, AC.
Have we seen RG this set at all?
No, and that was the other thing I was just going to say is we have not seen Royal Giant this set, and I would say Furkan is probably in the best position to play it just because Wallace did already run Skeleton King, Giant Skelly, Zappies, Hunter, and Fisherman in that very first game that he won with Graveyard. So it does feel like maybe Furkan, and that's one of the reasons I was saying maybe Mortar would be good for Wallace as opposed to Bait, but also like we saw that classic log bait version come out a few weeks ago where it was just Knight and Goblin Gang, Inferno Tower with Rocket, Princess, and Barrel, and it was just really tough to match up against later on in that duel set.
You know, that's actually okay. So it's great that you bring that deck up because I do not like the new meta log bait decks.
Yeah,
I've seen no success whatsoever. It's always, you know, the best games are the ones with 5 seconds left you still lose, and like that is crazy to think about. Logbait has, you know, it's been in the meta for the last 17 years, what it feels like. And right now, it's just not in a healthy spot. And even without certain responses on the board, when your opponent does have to use, you know, Fire Spirit and Delivery instead of just Log or Snowball or just, you know, any random great response, it feels like it should be kind of automatic victories, and instead that really doesn't change the end result.
There really are only 2 log bait decks in the meta right now, and one of them is the more dominant of the 2. I'd say the one that's played a lot less but is more traditional looking is Inferno Tower of Valkyrie with Princess and Barrel. You really don't see it a ton though. The main one that you see in top grand challenges, ladder, and of course in competitive is the one without Princess. And I think that's one of the things, it just feels wrong to have a log bait deck without Princess. It's the one with Goblin Barrel, usually Mirror, Dark Goblin, and Mighty Miner with Cannon, and sometimes you'll see a little bit of a change in there to bring in a Rocket or not have any big spell. And I agree, there's something about that deck that I don't love. It is kind of fun to watch. It's very frustrating to play against. It's not as fun to play as I thought it would be.
Yeah,
but there's just
gonna say that.
Yeah, it feels like it would have been so fun, but I always find it to be actually more frustrating than it is a good time. But I do think that like not having Princess in the most popular log bait deck out there in the game is just, it just doesn't sit right with me as a longtime Clash Royale player.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the Princess is necessary. You know, we have all those sayings, Princess Protection Program, and, you know, you're trying to, you know, it's always, do you want to log the Princess? Do you want to log the Goblin Barrel?
Right.
Is he going to Rocket Cycle? You know, there's a lot of things with that. And then with the new updated log bait, it just, you know, you're spamming barrels and just trying to defend. And then, you know, it's really dependent on whether or not your opponent can defend instead of you making the correct decisions to either rocket or, you know, do something crazy.
So just trying to figure out what these guys are going to be playing here in game number 5 as they are trying to figure out what they want to play here in game number 5. I see there's so many of you joining us with that in-game pop-up here. This is Royale Masters Gold Edition, the final day of competition, $25,000 on the line along with that final community golden ticket. And make sure you guys are subscribed here to this YouTube channel and following over on Twitch. Royale Masters puts together great competitions. This is the 2nd year in a row we've been with them. We absolutely love it. We love what they're doing. I love their dual format. And of course, that golden ticket being on the line means this is like must-see TV for all you Clash Royale fans, so we very much appreciate TV for all you Clash Royale fans, so we very much appreciate all of you guys being here. Who do you think is going to win? I see that there's a lot of chat going on, or a lot of activity going on in the chat. Do you think it's going to be Furkan? Do you think it's going to be Wallace? This would be a bit of a surprising moment of elimination for Wallace, although Furkan was the best player through our first 3 weeks of open qualifiers. Wallace is one of the best players in the world yet to have a golden ticket. And of course, there is the conversation out there of just getting to those grand finals. And if you're there with Mugi, you're already guaranteed a golden ticket, as Mugi already has one out there. And I see that there is now a poll going in the chat. AC, 81% of people as of right now, early on in the poll, think that Furkan's going to win. It's moving around because it just started. Do you have a preference? Do you have a feeling about which way this match is going to lean?
You know, preference? Actually, preference, no.
Okay.
Both of these players,
they both have earned it at this point, right?
exactly. Yeah, and I love watching both of these players. You know, for different reasons. Wallace, I've talked about it all the time. You know, it's very infrequent where you get to see perfect sets, and it feels like we kind of somewhat consistently see that from him. So he's, you know, he's shot to the top of my Clash Royale, you know, watch list basically. And then Furkan on the opposite side, the way he plays E-Giant, the way he plays, you know, just heavy beatdown decks in general, it's a joy to watch. I've learned so much from his gameplay, and really the way they both play, it's just so smooth. And so preference-wise, I don't lean one way or the other. But in terms of who I think will win, I don't know. I'm feeling lucky. I think I want to go with the chat, and I'm gonna say Furkan.
You know, one of the things that would be cool, though, is if we saw Furkan run Lava Hound Skelly King. He has both those cards available. And then for Wallace, Wallace has no Tornado. He has no Fire Spirit, no Inferno Tower. He has no Arrows, no Snowball, no Hunter, no Zappies. Those are a lot of really, really great air counter cards out there in the world. The only one I would say that is missing, really, is the Archer Queen. We are finally hopping into game here. We appreciate your guys' patience. And now that that poll has ended, it looked like it was like 1,300 people had voted, or maybe 2,000 people had voted, and it was still in favor for Furkan, 68+%. So here we go. Furkan is going to be the one to go bait. Wallace maybe is going to Mortar, which is, you know, I thought he could, so I'm feeling okay about that call.
As you should. Beautiful Mighty Miner in the middle to take the aggro of the Dark Goblin and be able to help out on the Cannon Cart. Cannon Cart had a baby amount of health on its shield, and it would have been just enough to lock onto the tower, so a good situation right there. No ability used. I feel like I saw the Mighty Miner start its ability, so I think he was trying to pop it.
Yeah, the Mighty Miner timing on its ability, just because it is the least played champion of the four, I feel like there's still a lot of people, including myself, that just don't get the timing on that Mighty Miner like you'd like. And it's usually just, you have to go one moment before you think you would. Everyone, I think, hits it just a second late because it does take it a while, maybe the longest to activate out of all the champion's abilities.
140 left. Cannon on Cannon Cart. Cannon, because it is level 13, just kidding, it will not get that second shot. So unfortunate misspeak from me. And nice Dark Goblin plus Fire Spirit will be able to take out the Cannon Cart and get value on the opposing Dark Goblin. Wow, what a Dark Goblin.
Yeah, that is a huge amount of value there for Furkan, and the Dark Goblin being the biggest damage dealer, at least to the ground and the skies, for either of these players. You know, the Mighty Miner and the guards might have something to say about that in terms of ground units. And there we go, Minion Horde in. And Dark Goblin is on the tower, but Wallace is setting himself up for, and that is a beautiful, beautiful Mighty Miner ability, and the cannon there to catch. Guards are a second late, and that is one of those sequences that can just really frustrate you as a Mortar player. Wallace, though, needs to just reset and hope that things go better here with 43 seconds remaining in regulation time. That was an awesome Mighty Miner ability, along with the Dark Goblin being on the tower the whole time.
Yeah, that was a game-winning play right there. Allowing the Miner to get to the tower. He says, that's okay, you know, you only have Minion Horde. In response, let me go, you know, just everything, throw it at the wall and see what works. And right there, he's able to get so much value. 20 seconds left, 2182 to 1235. Does get the Goblin Barrel onto the tower. Not going to matter because he will have Bar Barrel still in response. That Mortar will probably hit the Dark Goblin.
Yes, it does. But these cannons are everywhere for Furkan, always available to get on top of the Mortar, always available to get mirrored and play defense on his side of the board. And obviously plays perfectly there to not give any Mortar splash damage. Wallace right now in a very tough spot, decides to Mortar up again. Dark Goblin going to be placed there, and that will actually be a free Dark Goblin to get cleaned up by Wallace. Maybe not any better response in hand for Furkan.
Yeah, tough draw right there. Okay, he is going to be able to pop the ability, and that's going to work out perfectly for him. No ability right there, so he will need to respond with the Dark Goblin over the middle. Exactly what happened, 1771 to 1235. And this is where we finally get to see the pressure once again. There was a good 45-second period where there was just no pressure on the towers from Furkan.
Yeah, and Furkan has just been doing great positive Electro trades all the way across the board. That Fire Spirit plus the Dark Goblin being played and that Dark Goblin turning into an offensive threat was just so nice there. And Wallace cannot, for the life of him, protect his Mortar. Mortar not being able to get a shot on the Dark Goblin there. That's what he was looking for. And this game has just been completely controlled by Furkan. The double barrels coming in.
Yeah. Goblins will be able to get the stabs onto the tower. No Mighty Miner just yet, and that's a very nice Miner interaction. But here we go. This is where he will be able to pop the ability. It's going to get so much value. Dark Goblin does stay alive, but that's not going to matter. It depends. What really matters right now is what spell does Furkan have.
And Wallace just trying for the life of him to protect his Mortar. He cannot do it. This Mortar will finally lock on tower, but too little, too late. Furkan will eliminate Wallace with the double rocket coming through, and Wallace finally able to put that offense that he was looking for together at the end. Not gonna be enough. Furkan stays alive.
Yeah, that was, I mean, okay, hopefully we can pull the replay right there when he goes with the full push, because that was just brilliant. I love the setup. He allows the Miner to get to the tower. That's a -3 for Wallace, and so he can just throw everything to the tower. Just a great situation, great knowledge of what's happening overall, and that's we saw the new and improved bait, not the one that we've been seeing a lot, kind of a different take on it. And he just played that so gorgeously.
I mean, the cannons, man, the cannons from Furkan, the plays, they were always available. I mean, there was literally 2 mortar shots, it felt like, that got on top of tower that entire game, and Wallace was trying for the life of him to just get those mortars protected, get them on tower. You can see there basically a 50-50 matchup, 6 of 8 with 3,400 samples, 45-55 in favor of Wallace. But Furkan putting in work, 10 Dark Goblins on the board, 9 mirrors out there. And really, it was about the Fire Spirits and the Mighty Miner ability, just completely locking down that minion horde, never having to use a big spell, and also never having to worry about probably the biggest threat in Wallace's deck. I mean, really, that game just came down to, can I keep the minion horde controlled, and can I make sure none of those mortars lock on tower? The minor shots you can take here and there because you're going to get barrel damage as well. So just a beautiful set there for Furkan.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of those games where you just want to be throwing the Dark Goblin as often as you can. And it sounds like we do have the replay, so hopefully we can see that shortly.
Here we go.
And here we go. And this is the push that I was really excited about. The Mighty Miner does come down. He is forced to use the Minion Horde because we see the Bar Barrel on the right side. Ooh. Just a great recognition of the situation, and then that's exactly what you were talking about. He immediately responds with one of those scary, scary cannons.
And then here we see the other side of it, the rocket coming in at the end. Yes, there is a big-time pileup on the right-hand side of the board. Minion Horde making its way to tower. Cannon cart protected by the Minion Horde. Fire Spirit no longer in play, but 2 rockets away, and that is going to be it for the day for Wallace. A great run that he had, but now he has to go back, reset, and get ready for that 20-win challenge. Yes, he gets to walk away with $1,000, I believe, which is nice for him. You know, it's good to get a little bit of prize money here, but of course, he really does want that golden ticket, and we are now narrowed down to 5 players remaining. So we have to hop to our next matchup here. It's going to be between Greco and Pandora. So this is going to be a really, really exciting matchup taking place over in Japan between 2 of the better players out of that country. And when you talk about their gameplay, Greco was exceptional in that wild card open, in the qualifying day, and in those finals. And then Pandora on the other side of it has been kind of in the mix since day 1 of our open qualifiers ending, of that first open qualifier ending, because of what happened with trainer Adnan. Pandora ended up being the winner of our week 1 qualifiers. And yesterday was a pretty good day for Pandora. It was a tough one, right? It was an up and down day, but was able to stay alive in that elimination matchup. So Pandora's already had some experience with having his back up against the wall, whereas Greco got sent down after his set in set number 2, where he was facing off against Lucas, and a very, very dangerous Lucas at that.
Yeah, something about Greco where he's the king of tough losses. And so, you know, hopefully that doesn't happen for him again. But both players, I mean, they're so talented. Pandora, you know, he's been there was a time about a year and a half ago where he was heavily considered a top 5 player in the world. And then Greco, you know, he was one of those, you know, wonder kids where it's like as soon as he hits 16, this man is going to just wreak havoc. He's going to be in every competition. He alongside Mugi were those two, you know, young Japanese pros where everybody was scared of, everybody was intimidated by. And so, yeah, this is going to be a special set. Excited to see a best of 5 between these two players, because then we really get to see, you know, the wheels turn inside their brains, how they want to set each set up.
Greco's biggest success last season was finishing in 3rd place in round 8 of our CRL rounds, or qualifiers, if you will, but he also got 32nd. He was eliminated in that 32nd place spot that a lot of players ended up in at our World Finals. And it was a very, very tough first day of competition at the World Finals. So Greco ending in that 32nd spot, wanting to do better here in 2022. Also, though, when you look at Greco, he showed up in round 4, he got 8th place spot. He showed up in round 2, he got 16th. So a guy that played very well in the last season, but still was missing that extra little bit of oomph to put himself in that top 1%, that top 0.01%, that S tier category. And Pandora, you know, I think, as you said, Pandora is one of those players that there's still a lot to be said in his story. I think that we expect a lot out of Pandora. You know, when you look at what he did last year, he was also in that round 32 of our World Finals. And then for his performances throughout the year, round 2, he was number 8, and round 5, he was number 24. Round 1, he was number 24. So maybe just a step behind Greco in terms of accomplishments, but still eliminated in that same round of 32 at World Finals. And then in terms of who they ran into yesterday and what their day of competition looked like, you know, Greco started out his day against Schwatzen. We know how that went for Schwatzen, sent him down to the elimination round. All of these rounds, or all of these first matches, though, in the first round of our playoffs yesterday, all did go to 3. For Pandora, it was the eliminated Wallace that sent him down to the elimination bracket. So here we go, hopping into game, Greco and Pandora, a battle in Japan. Greco top of your screen, Pandora at the bottom. And it is Greco who is on camera again. Nice to see him.
Greco gonna start off the game with the drill plus the giant skeleton, so probably just gonna be using the normal Golden Knight variant with the magic archer in tow as well. Pandora, I was going to say, wow, that is a huge miss lightning. That is not the way you want to start off if you're Pandora, and
wow,
I really want to see Greco try and abuse this, especially since the magic archer was able to get that swing on the tombstone.
And you asked for it, AC. There's the abuse coming in. That hunter is going to do nothing. And already, this is a tower. Oh, my goodness. I'm actually shocked he was able to cycle back around. That actually might have worked.
Wow. Able to even push, I mean, even pushes off the cannon cart from the tower. Yes, the drill is going to be scary, but the fisherman in response maybe is going to be enough. The stab goblins will get the tower down to 2162, but I mean, you were saying it, I was expecting the tower to be down right there. Pandora just kind of wakes up and pulls off a very nice sequence to keep his tower alive.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredibly impressive defensive sequence, just cycling around, making sure that he was able to get back to that Skeleton King. That was the goal there for Pandora. And in terms of how badly this game could have been with that missed lightning, Pandora actually finds himself in not a bad spot. Even without the missed lightning, if you're only down 600 HP with a minute or with 2 minutes of gameplay, it's not the best, obviously, but could have been a lot worse. Now we see a attempt at a lineup there, and another lightning comes in. This time, Pandora does not miss.
Tower all the way down to 1894. Pandora Pandora is going to be using RG right there, so we are going to get the first RG action of the day. One of the most popular decks throughout this tournament, and for good reason. It has had a lot of success. And wow, I don't know if the Golden Knight was able to make it to the tower. This is just a big push, and he's going to have to stack troops, and the giant skeleton bomb is going to be able to explode over everything.
Yeah, and that cannon cart is still dangerous in the wings with enough HP to become a threat. Now a magic archer comes down again here. Does focus on the Skelly first, so one less shot will come through. But still, damage is in, and Pandora at this point, I mean, he's still hanging on for dear life, but this has been a rough game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, Greco is doing everything right. I mean, even right there, the ghost timing is absolutely perfect. Doesn't get shot by the hunter whatsoever. I like the idea of trying to, you know, take Elixir out of the way from Greco. And that's going to be a great lightning value.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, yeah, that is just
that
a
was
great spot
huge.
for him.
Yeah, definitely, man. 1517 to 1099. The Lightning kind of keeps all those defensive troops on the wrong side of the board for Greco. And Pandora with almost an entire reset of our game here. But still, pressure will come in. And Royal Ghost does not get on top of tower. Can the Fish Boy pull in time? Yes, the Fish Boy does. Magic Archer will not get any shots there. 1099 to 1517. And now we see Greco cycle that Giant Skelly in that right-hand lane, starting to feel the heat just a little bit.
Great timing with the Golden Knight, not going to be hit by the Hunter's shells. Giant Skeleton on the Skeleton King on the opposite end, and that's going to be a beautiful Fisherman going to be able to target the Magic Archer instead of anything else.
Yeah, it feels like maybe this next sequence, Greco needs to not go for that Magic Archer piercing damage. I think the last 3 have been caught by Pandora, who has really tightened up his gameplay. That's a great lightning there, and he doesn't lightning the cannon cart. I actually love that decision. Does not lightning the cannon cart, and because of that tower now within lightning range, we may see one of the best come-from-behind victories in a while. But that Skeleton King almost in range of the Magic Archer, now gets in range of the Magic Archer. Can he get back around to a lightning in time?
Wow, I mean, I don't know how Pandora was able to pull this off. Gorgeous come-from-behind victory. It has everything to do with the RG opposite lane with no added support troops, no spell, nothing with it. Just 6 elixir at the bridge, and it gets the tower all the way down to sub 2000 HP, where then he can start that comeback.
I mean, 2 Royal Giants, AC. It was only 2 Royal Giants to take that entire game, which just shows you how brilliantly they were timed by Pandora. And again, I got to go back to that lightning. It's one of those decisions where after it happened, it made so much sense. But in the moment, if you're playing the game, why not go for the value? The lightning is there. The Magic Archer, I believe, was there. The Princess Tower, and of course, the cannon cart. And Pandora opts to only lightning 2 of the 3, keep the cannon cart on its wheels so the RG goes directly to tower, let that cannon cart damage stack up. It's not going to be enough, not quick enough. And just that one moment alone was the game-winning touch for Pandora. I mean, that was huge, man.
Yeah, those kind of plays are always so fun. Sounds like we have a replay right here, and you know what? You get to talk about it this time.
So here we go. This is the second Royal Giant coming in. It was an E-Wiz, excuse me, and the cannon. You look right there. I actually don't even know if they were all 3 in range. They might have been perfectly placed, but still opting to go for the E-Wiz for the slow. Gets that Royal Giant on the tower. That final shot comes in because the cannon cart damage just isn't enough. The Fish Boy pulls it or tries to pull it last second. And then you see here the perfectly placed Skeleton King to not line up. And then the Fish Boy comes down to stop the bleeding just in case that Magic Archer decides to get a little too creative. The lightning comes in, and when you talk about how badly that game was going for Pandora early on, I cannot believe he was able to take game number 1.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like when you watch that game, it really makes you wonder why we didn't see RG in set number 1.
Yes, yep.
It started off so poorly, and it was only due to mistakes on Pandora's end. It wasn't due to matchup. It wasn't due to anything except mistakes. It was a missed lightning that just snowball effect, and he was down 1,500 HP. But I mean, once he started heating up, once he started getting the cycle down correctly, you know, blocking Magic Archers at the bridge, doing everything that he actually had to do, it was so simple. I mean, it was just, he got the damage that he needed, he got lightning value when he had to, and then he also just made smart plays. But I can't believe we didn't see his set number 1.
You know, I'm so glad that you pointed that out because I was thinking the same thing, and we were kind of having our pre-match conversation, and then the game started. But that was the last point I was going to make. Was very surprised we didn't see RG in set number 1. I'm sure we'll see it early in set number 2, and we got it game number 1. And now it looks like Pandora is going to be the first player in a while to go to Lava Hound. I mean, that's usually all it means when Skeleton Dragons are in play. We have seen Skelly Dragons in a different weird deck, and I don't believe it worked out. There was no synergy there. So it looks like it's going to be Lava, Mighty Miner with Miner. So Lava, double Miner. We have seen this before. going up against Drill with most likely Magic Archer and Electro Wizard for Greco to play defense against the skies.
And so my thought process is I love seeing the lava in this, but I hate this matchup. I think up top we should be seeing the Inferno Tower variation from Greco.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, that is going to be very tough to get past. He really doesn't... I mean, the Mighty Miner variation as well, it's just going to be so difficult to overwhelm that Inferno Tower.
Yeah, that's a great call there, AC. I think you're 100% correct. We've seen this Drill version kind of take over with Inferno Tower. Instead of the Bandit Bomber version, it's gone to the Golden Knight Magic Archer version. So we will see if that is the case. And if you're a Greco fan, you're hoping it is. So 2464 to 2780.
Log to protect the Magic Archer is able to take the Miner off the board. Arrows on the Fire Spirit, always unfortunate when you have to do a -2 elixir trade. Didn't want to waste this cage, just kind of wanted to reset. With your buildings, you always have to make sure, it's weird, but you always want to make sure that you're keeping them, you know, fully healthy. That way, you know, you can protect the Magic Archer from, you know, getting shot after shot on your tower.
So Lava Hound actually does squeeze right in there, and there's the Inferno like you called out, AC. What is the spell for Pandora? That's the big kind of question mark up in the air right now. As you can see right here, that Inferno and Magic Archer just putting in work. That entire push was completely decimated by that defense.
Yeah,
and
that was
mirror.
That was so pretty right there. I mean, this is beautiful gameplay. Goblins are going to get the stabs on top of the tower. I mean, that was so simple, but that defensive sequence right there, utilizing the Inferno Tower beautifully, the Magic Archer behind, I'm sure he was already back to another Magic Archer, but he didn't need it because of just how perfectly the Magic Archer was placed. It was getting shots on the Flying Machine, as well as the Lava, as well as the Skeleton Dragons. That was perfection in game number 2 from Greco.
Yeah, and I don't really know in terms of matchup what Pandora could have done. Just so many great options in the bag there for Greco and the way that he played it, the pressure that was going on, and even something as small as that Fire Spirit baiting out arrows. I mean, that means that your Lava Push has to start 2 elixir later, or you have to wait for another cycle to get back around. And I think the last thing for me is just looking at that mirror. I don't really understand the mirror in that deck, AC. What are you looking to mirror your Miner? Are you looking to mirror your Flying Machine behind the Lava? Is it just completely situational, or is it just there isn't really the synergy there, so we're kind of going to be reaching no matter what our answer is?
So I personally don't really like the mirror variation. I think it's a little bit too slow. A lot of the times we don't really see the potential of what it's trying to set up. You know, some of the answers I'm going to give you, I'm going to immediately counter that with why I don't like the mirror.
Okay.
So, you know, we saw in this game, you can have the arrows, you can have the mirror. It's going to be able to take out the Magic Archer. But the problem with that is that your Magic Archer decks cycle quickly. You had, I think it was Fire Spirit plus Skellies plus NATO, and you can just get back to another one. I think 2 weeks ago, I think we saw this variant be used, maybe with a Tombstone, you know, maybe with, you know, a different champion ability. And he was going against Zappies, and he kept using the arrows plus mirror on top of the Zappies, but then the Hunter was wreaking havoc, and then it still wasn't getting any value. So the idea of the arrows, or the idea of the mirror, is to try and get double arrows, or trying to get, you know, potential double Flying Machines. But a lot of the times you have answers for that, and a lot of the time it's going to be pretty much useless.
Yeah, and you talk about the responses that Greco had. You know, there was just so many options to clean up anything that was mirrored, anything that was in the skies, with that Inferno, being able to pull it all together with the NATO, like you said, being able to get that second Magic Archer down, not having to worry about a big spell. So if he was going to be looking at that double, or that mirrored arrows, you maybe start to see the Magic Archers placed up a little bit higher or offset to the other lane, and still being able to snipe up the defensive units, or the support units that are coming behind that Lava Hound. So interesting game number 2 deck choice here for Pandora. I think the narrative continues that Royal Giant is the best win condition in the competition, and Lava Hound is slowly falling down to be the worst after we had a very up and down journey with Lava Hound throughout all of Royale Masters Gold Edition. There was, we're not really seeing it at all, oh, we're seeing it, now it's actually doing pretty well, and then it just completely dropped off at our wild card open, and you can see in practice why that has just not been the way to go here. So now preparing for game number 3 between Greco and Pandora. You can take a look here at the decks that they're just playing. The one good thing for Pandora is, you know, game number 1, that Royal Giant win, not a lot of overlap in those cards. He used Hunter, he used Fish Boy, he used Lightning, and then we're going to hop into game right here. And then in game number 2, when you look at what is no longer available for Greco, basically it's just he took Drill out of the conversation for him, you know, and I guess minor poison control if you wanted to use Inferno Tower. Actually, and I guess E-Giant as well, because no Skellies, no Fire Spirit, no NATO. I guess you could still have a different version, but not having NATO with E-Giant is always tough.
That's right. I think no NATO, no E-Giant. I really don't think that it's viable whatsoever if you don't have the NATO pull potential.
So it looks like Greco could be going to the skies or could be playing a graveyard deck, and it does there confirm that we are going to be going to Lava. Pandora on the other side of it. We'll have to see what other air support cards he has. Could be a Dark Goblin, could be Archer Queen. Could be Musketeer.
I'd say it's probably one of those.
Yep, oh, and it is going to be the Archer Queen, played up high here.
Giant Skeleton Bomb should be able to fully take it out, and he will be able to go in with the mortar as well. Archer Queen popping the ability right now.
That's
Here we go. Wow, that's going to get the tower all the way down after the mortar gets just one more shot. And, I mean, I understand the sell-up push before double elixir, but that Inferno Dragon is going to walk in front, and that is just not the situation he wants to be. He needs to take this tower right here, and that defensive poison is going to halt the Flying Machine's progress.
I was just going to say, with where that mortar is placed and the Lava Hound getting distracted by it, the Inferno will sneak up in front. And now you see cycling all the way back around, not able to get on top of the second Skelly Dragon and not picked up there by the Miner is this Archer Queen. So Archer Queen going to put in some work, but you can see Greco is not going to let this push die on the vine, decides to take it. And with the elixir lead Pandora has, with the AQ still being on the board, decides to set up another mortar. That's going to be easy cleanup for this Flying Machine. And just like that, we have a full reset in a 2-tower game.
Yeah, I absolutely love what Greco did in this situation. I think this is such a bad matchup if you don't get it to 2 towers. The game gets really weird if you can, you know, set up offensive pressure, split lane potential with that. And now it really is anybody's game. I love what I saw right there. And, you know, this is certainly anybody's game at this point.
Giant Skelly getting a little bit close there. Archer Queen ability maybe popped just a hair early. Could have waited for another second because that Giant Skelly Bomb did reset the Inferno Dragon.
And right there, that was a very nice snowball. Moves the Flying Machine all the way into the poison. You know, basically the Flying Machine was able to get a shot, and I feel like that snowball was cool enough where it wasn't deserved. But that's all right because, you know, that's just... The game doesn't have to listen to me.
Nice work there with the Miner to pull those units back towards that Giant Skelly Bomb. Interesting use of 3 elixir, but a good use. And bats up high to protect this Archer Queen. Arrow's going to come in. Now the ability's going to have to pop, and guards to reset. But the Skelly King is right there to take care of those guards. This push is getting a little bit scary, and this is a true bridge battle right behind this Lava Hound, and that poison is also going to do great work here, cleaning everything up along with that Giant Skelly Bomb. 27-20 to 25-20, separated by only 200 HP. Remember, Pandora does have the spell cycle battle in spades, along with being able to get that Miner on top of tower if it's not caught. But these lava pushes are getting scary.
Yeah, and right here, now that we're in triple elixir, we are going to see the lava placed over the middle. There it is, yep. Skeleton King plus the pups. This is exactly the situation that Greco wants to be. Poison will come down defensively, but these skeleton dragons, it happened about 20 seconds ago. They somehow lock onto these bats, and they just get so much value because of it.
And you see there the bats being placed behind the Princess Tower, just not knowing where to put them to play the correct defense. High AQ in the pocket to get on top of that flying machine. But the overwhelm is real by Greco. And that sellout push in single gets him to a brilliant spot here in triple.
Yeah, this was such a great game from Greco. Everything was done perfectly. We see even at the end, miners to get the aggro of the mortar. It's going to be locked onto the wrong thing. Skeleton King over the middle, just going to stop those guards. And what a game number 3 from Greco. I think that was the best played game so far today from any player, in my opinion.
And that's just another example of why you and I are such a big fan of this lava deck in general, right? If you're going to run lava, it feels like you have to run the Skelly King Lava Hound version of Lava Hound with Miner, because you saw there the map control, the ability to control the ground, never getting overwhelmed there, being able to distract the mortars if necessary, being able to split up your troops so that a poison could not get on top of your Skelly Drags and your flying machine and the army that was spawned behind your Skelly King. Just so much great stuff there. And Pandora did a good job in single, or at least attempted a good job of defending that tower when it was a single tower game. But I don't really know what he could have done very differently. I think he did basically everything he could, cycling back around to that second Archer Queen, getting the snowball in, but just the overwhelm came in from Greco time and time again.
Yeah, I've been kind of like racking my brain and trying to decide what could have been done differently. And I think what maybe could have been done was he placed the Archer Queen off to the side of the Crown Tower, just, you know, I think like a tile up and a tile to the right. And I think I would have liked seeing the Archer Queen be placed behind the Skeleton Dragons. I think it would have locked onto the Skeleton Dragons.
Interesting.
He could have potentially, you know, popped the ability when the Miner was placed in, and the Miner would have walked to the tower. And then I think the pups would have actually just walked to the Archer Queen instead of the tower. There was potential for him to slow down that push and stop it from taking the entire tower. And I think it's a requirement to try and protect yourself from getting into a 2-tower situation if you're using a mortar deck.
So I love what you're saying here. So talking about the very first tower that fell for Pandora, that Archer Queen that was placed defensively on top of the Princess Tower, you're saying should have been placed actually in danger zone, but being behind the Lava Hound and the Skelly Drags. That way it would have 100% locked onto the second Skelly Drag, still been on that AQ, and then the pups would have split their damage between the Princess Tower and the Archer Queen, and most likely then the AQ would have survived. And I think that's actually a really, really brilliant call there. I think when you look back to how the sequence was played and the fact that they both kind of spent down to 0, that probably is the only way that you would have been able to defend that. So maybe just a misstep there by Pandora defensively. You understand it. You know, you always want to protect your Archer Queen. You always want to protect your defensive air targeting units. But in this situation, would have been better to maybe go up high. I believe guards did come in or already came in, so that could have been another thing that he had to worry about. But at least those Skelly Drags would have been taken care of. So great job there by Greco. We finally see Lava Hound for the first time in almost 2 weeks in back-to-back games, one to very little success and one to a lot of success. So let's take a look here at what we have in terms of matchup. Pandora lost the last 2 games here after picking up game number 1. So what is no longer available for Greco? Miner, Skelly King, Arrows, Flying Machine, NATO, Golden Knight, Inferno Tower, Log, Magic Archer. So a lot of stuff out there, but still a lot of, you know, Fireball still available. Poison is still available. He still has Barb Barrel. NATO not being in play. Very curious to think about what these guys might want to go to. And then when you look at Pandora, obviously still only winning 1 game in this set. It was just that Royal Giant deck. So Pandora still has a lot of options out there. I would like to see Pandora just go firmly in the meta. Even that mortar deck, it's not too far off of what's viable, and I saw Igor climbing really high yesterday with a Giant Skelly, Archer Queen, Mortar Poison Miner deck. But I don't think it was this exact version. It might have just been Log instead of the Snowball. I can't remember 100%, but we'll find out. I guess all my questions will be answered here as we hop into game number 4. Pandora on the verge of being eliminated unless he can turn this game number 4 around, and then it becomes a best of 1 for your life.
Greco, now that he has the lead, turns the camera back on. Tears are wiped away.
Yeah, I was going to say we lost him in game number 2 there, but apparently he had to focus up.
Pandora is going to start. Okay, Barbaro will come down in response. Pandora is going to lean on Logbait game number 4. I like that he didn't wait to game number 5. I think that's one of the big problems because, you know, a lot of players only have 1 to 2 to 3 decks that they can even possibly use. And so to already use the bait deck, that's going to leave a lot of options available to him in the final game if he's able to make it there.
Yeah, and I definitely like Mirror being used in this deck much more than I do in that Lava deck. And now we see a defensive rock coming out. That that E-Spirit will be a nice card for Greco to have, whether it's in terms of resetting the Mighty Miner or just helping with that Goblin Barrel damage. But talking about Goblin Barrel damage, already 1,200 damage done on that top left-hand tower. And we are only a minute and a half into gameplay as we see Greco set up his first offensive push, Royal Giant in the back, going down the opposite lane.
Yeah, and this is going to be so difficult because we're going to see a ton of pressure, especially in single elixir. This actually has potential to go in with the barrel, the mirrored barrel. No, he's instead going to elect to defend. But yeah, every defense is going to be so strong because yes, you have the lightning, but the cannon plus the Dark Goblin plus the Mighty Miner or Skellies. I mean, I would say at least 75% of the RGs placed on the map will not be able to hit the tower whatsoever.
And you see there the overspend defensively here from Greco to make sure that no more of that Goblin Barrel damage does come in, but that's going to be a lot easier said than done. As this Archer Queen is cleaned up by that Dark Goblin getting a lot of value here. Second barrel is in, and the E-Spirit does come down.
And that barrel is going to take it down to 14-15. He does stack the Giant Skeleton in the back, Ghost on the right side, so he can elect to go in with the RG push if he wants to. We could see Lightning. There's a lot of options available to him, and this is certainly one of those situations where it feels like every answer is wrong. I mean, we see the Archer Queen over the middle getting value, but not enough value. We see the Giant Skeleton placed at the bridge, but the cannon is going to take it out. This is just such a tough spot for Greco.
And no ability to get that mirrored cannon down does pull the Mighty Miner away, so now shots are coming in from that Royal Giant for the first time. And we find ourselves in a much closer game than we were in just moments ago. But that barrel comes down, only an E-Spirit to respond, trying to hold the barrel for the mirrored, or excuse me, trying to hold the bar barrel for the mirrored barrel. And now the overwhelm is real on the right-hand side. That Giant Skeleton still on the board. Fishboy is behind. And now you see the E-Spirit come down looking for those Skellies. So a Dark Goblin has to come out defensively. Not what you want to have to do there. Pandora had to spend a lot on that last defense.
Yeah, this is great offensive potential. We are going to see the Lightning come down shortly with the ability, not with the ability. Archer Queen does stay alive just long enough to take out the cannon. If he can defend this,
the double barrel's in. That one Goblin, he missed the one Goblin, and the E-Spirit's in. That's going to be towered down. And you see Greco's eyes just a little bit kind of widen as and the camera goes right back off as he prepares for game number 5 here. And I'm sure I'm sure Tasty's just having to keep up with Greco's camera action right now at the moment. And it's so funny because you and I were maybe throwing a little shade towards this deck, the double barrel Goblin or Dark Goblin deck with the Mighty Miner, but it has had great success here today.
So did he miss the back Goblin that first? Wow. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Greco, but he always loses in the most heartbreaking ways. And right there, if he gets that interaction down, I mean, the tower was down to, what, 205 HP on the right side? He would have won that game if he hits one barrel. I don't know what it is about him. He loses in such heartbreaking passions.
And you know, it wasn't even a tricky barrel. It was an offset,
right.
which is something you expect out of your opponent when you have only barbell to defend. They go inside, they go outside. The one goblin stays alive and gets the stab. We've all been there before. We know how that feels. But this was just directly on the tower and a complete miss by Greco on that back goblin. And yeah, that is a heartbreaking one. He was able to turn that game back around. You saw Pandora having to drop everything that he had in the bag, spending down to 0 to keep kiting around that giant skeleton. The giant skeleton started to really control the map there for Greco. We got a replay. Let's take a look here at what happened here in these final moments. AC, take it away.
So this was just great offense from Greco and solid defense from Pandora. I mean, a lot of the time he only had 3 elixirs, so it was the decision between the Dark Goblin, between the cannon, how does he want to defend right there. That was a great Fire Spirit as well. The Archer Queen and the Dark Goblin both take each other out, and it was really who won that interaction wins the game. So when both of them win, it's still anybody's game. We see the high skeletons, the high E-Spirit. We see the middle Dark Goblin, and then the Fisherman pulls. So everything is happening all at once. And this right here, this was a great usage of the ability, great pressure with the RG. I thought he was going to go Lightning, but the RG right there was great. And this is where it all happens. The first barrel comes in, 793, does, oh wow, he does miss it. And the tower's down to 203 HP. One thing changes, and we're walking out of here. Game 4, the victory would have gone to Greco. Instead, we're hitting another game 5.
And the RG was right there. It was locked. It was loaded. It was ready to go. The cannonball was in the air. But the missed goblin is what it all comes down to. And, I mean, that is one of those painful, painful losses. You want to be able to sew this set up. But now we find ourselves, again, you just said it, in a best of 5, game number 5. It's now a best of 1 to keep your life alive here in the Royale Masters Gold Edition. Still vying for that golden ticket before we hop back up to our upper bracket, our winners bracket, where we will see Lucas and Mugi, a golden ticket holder and our defending world champion, face off in what was going to be one of the best of 3s you guys are going to see all day long. Well, actually, technically, I think it's the only best of 3 you're going to see all day today, so it's definitely going to be the best one and probably going to be one of our best sets, period, as those two guys are just sitting back, waiting and watching everything that's going down. And if I'm Lucas or Mugi, since we have a moment here, it's always so hard to pick what decks these guys are going to come out with. So let's have a different conversation. What are things that I have learned if I'm Lucas or Mugi? Well, I've learned that the double bait is actually working out really, really well today. Lava Hound has had mediocre success, but RG has been incredibly dominant throughout the day. Even though we just saw RG lose, that was more so based off of a misplay than it was the deck actually not succeeding. So the strongest deck coming into the day, I still think has been the strongest deck throughout the day, but it's all about how you play it. And right there, Greco with a very small mistake for a very massive change in outcome.
Yeah, I think one of the main things, and I mean, I'm sure this is what every single player is really deciding on, is, you know, just how viable Graveyard is.
Yeah.
And whether or not you can just fit it into your set. It's certainly, I think it's the most difficult win condition to really place on like a tier list, because it feels like it's a D tier win condition, but we still see Wallace, you know, go time and time again to the Graveyard. And so, you know, some people have had success, some people haven't, and you're really trying to figure out what that third and fourth deck, you know, can be in your rotation.
Right.
Because you don't, I mean, you know, I was talking at the very beginning of the show, Lucas has played Mortar 3 different times in his 5 games, and then Mugi has ran RG twice, and
Drill twice.
So, I mean, both of those players are really sticking to what works with them, and you can't do that when it's a best of 5.
Yeah, and I love the idea of Graveyard kind of being the X factor in that conversation, because really there's only 2 Graveyard decks that feel viable in terms of dual format, and the one of them is the Splash Yard version that we saw yesterday. The only issue there is that it does take away Baby Dragon and Skeleton King and Tombstone, right? But Skeleton King is really the only big card that's missing. So that's one of the reasons why, and NATO, actually, excuse me, Tornado also being gone. So, and then the other version of Graveyard that I think is the most viable in dual format is the Zappies, Giant Skelly, Cannon Cart, Arrows, Snowball version. Because the biggest thing is the other versions of Graveyard out there, Graveyard Mortar, or like Graveyard 6-man, things like that, which is we've seen a little bit. You don't really want to, I think, use those cards. I don't think you want to use your only Mortar game with Graveyard. Yes, there is a Mortar Graveyard deck out there that's decent, but I really believe if you're going to use Mortar in your set, you got to go to Mortar Control. It just feels like it's got to be the way that you go if you want to play that card. So yeah, I think Graveyard does become a really interesting X factor. And then also to that same conversation, I think we saw Greco and Pandora try to figure out that combination with Lava Hound today. Something that we hadn't seen a lot. They were like, all right, well, if I am in a best of 5, what's the other win condition, maybe the lesser win condition that I need to bring into this set? And it felt like both of them went to Lava Hound. So very curious to see what they bring out in game number 5. And obviously, guys, we want to hop into the games just as quickly as you do, but it's one of those things. I think when you're watching a tournament with best of 5s and this much money on the line and a golden ticket, you have to imagine between games 4 and 5, there's always going to be a bit longer of a delay because there's so much more kind of navigating you have to do with what's available, what's unavailable, and what's already been played. So, you know, we can have that conversation a little bit. It's always really difficult to figure out what it's going to be, but Pandora in his 2 games, Mighty Miner, Dark Goblin, Gob Barrel, Fire Spirit, Rocket, Cannon, and then in game number 1 that he won, Lightning, Tombstone, Fishboy, Hunter, Skelly King. So it's really tough to decide. I mean, I could even see Greco maybe going to. No, I was going to say he could maybe go to Golem, but I think the fact that there are still like Inferno Tower in play, there's still Inferno Dragon in play, it maybe isn't the way to go. And for Greco, when you look at the games that he won, there was that Lava Hound deck with Skelly King and Miner, so it feels like just because of Miner being out of play, you cannot really go to Mortar, and it sounds like game is going to start right now. And then the other one was that Drill, Magic Archer, Golden Knight deck. So here we go. Pandora is coming out with the Inferno Tower, which is something that felt like it had to happen. And you like that because we got Hog EQ on the other side of it from Greco.
Inferno Tower with just about 2% of its health is able to take the Giant Skeleton all the way down to half health. Valk in response as well. Giant Skeleton won't be a problem, not going to reach the tower. And so, yeah, we are going to see Hog, Tesla, probably EQ go against Drill Control. And now the question is, does Pandora have Magic Archer available to him?
Pandora does have Magic Archer available.
Okay, so there's going to be a lot of potential with these Drill NATOs. And this is going to be hard to get past. You know, he does have Inferno Tower, and he likely has NATO. No, he's going to be using Drill Wallbreakers. Wow.
So Drill Wallbreakers with Bomber. EQ will come in, but it won't be enough to take care of the Sizzle that's already in play. 2907 to 2890. And a fascinating matchup we have here. Pandora has good responses. He's got 2 buildings to deal with those Hog Riders. He's got the Guards plus the Ice Spirit, which will be a complete cleanup there. He's also got the Fireball to knock back that Hog before the Fireball knockback does get nerfed.
And it really feels like the game gets changed so much when your opponent has Drill without Magic Archer.
Yep.
I definitely don't disagree. I like this deck from Pandora. I love the wall breakers. We haven't seen very much of them. But the reason is, you know, when you have the potential for the Magic Archer, it's just so scary. It's so intimidating. It puts your opponent in such bad positions. And so, yeah, just really shocking to not see that in game number 5.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look back again at what Pandora has already played in this set, Tornado is still available. So just opting to leave that out of this deck. No Magic Archer, no NATO lineups, and that's something that Greco's got to be pretty happy about. It's going to make cleaning up those drills a lot easier if he can use the Guards if he wants, or he can just use the Giant Skeleton. Getting as many of those giant skellies on the board is a big part of this game.
Guards in response to the drill, perfectly cleaned up, keeps the guards fully alive. That's going to allow for a little bit of potential with a counter push, and it will have the bomber in response there. 2508 to 2832, 300 HP separating the two players. Tesla is going to be the answer every single time, and that Tesla will be able to snipe the bomber before it dies out, so a great spot right there. And no offensive snowball, so that is going to be another perfect defense from Pandora.
Yeah, Ice Spirit plus guards, great there as Pandora goes back on offense. Valkyrie up high, bomber behind, and then the drill comes in. Ice Spirit plus guards, there are the guards, and that goblin runs all the way around, but Wallbreaker almost connects. Perfectly timed snowball there as guards defend against that Archer Queen in the right-hand lane. Now Inferno Tower has to come down. And Pandora just making sure he always has enough elixir in the tank to get that Inferno Tower down.
Yeah, that was such a great offense from Pandora, and that was such a beautiful defense from Greco as well. I mean, both players playing perfectly, but that guards plus snowball interaction was magical. I mean, the timing right there was so difficult to pull off, and he got it just in time. And I mean, a minute left and both players have done, 500 or less HP to the towers. One mistake, you lose the game.
Yeah, it really has been all about that Earthquake cycle for Greco. And we'll probably see that once again here. There's the EQ coming in on top of the Hog. The Hog gets hit by that Ice Spirit. And once again, just the Earthquake damage and drill damage on the other side of it. No goblins, so stacking on the board. And Greco's got to start feeling that pressure with only 26 seconds remaining. Just got to make sure he continues to defend right and gets that Earthquake value in when he can. Pandora on the other side of it just needs to make something happen. We are in the last 15 seconds of this best of 5. Greco in the lead. Fireball comes down. That should do it.
I mean, perfection from Greco. No shots whatsoever from the drills. I said that I like the deck from Pandora, and I'm recognizing that I just don't. You need the Magic Archer, you need that NATO potential, you need that offense, because there was not a single goblin that got onto the tower, and the wall breakers had one opportunity, but with one good defense, Greco stopped every single push.
Yeah, you were saying there's just nothing you really have to be that scared of. You know the only way you're going to take damage is with those wall breakers connecting, so you always have the Tesla for it, like you also said during that matchup. And then, of course, the drill. But there's so many ways to get on top of that drill, whether it's the snowball, the guards, just playing the giant skelly, what have you. There was nothing else that you needed. I mean, you needed that extra layer of win condition, that extra layer of offense to truly become a threat. And that was just, as you said, just brilliantly played there by Greco. And Pandora, I don't know, man. I mean, does this come down to the conversation of maybe two decks that didn't really work out for Pandora that put himself in this elimination situation?
Yeah, I really do feel like you have to chalk it up to deck selection right there. The lava plus arrows and mirror was certainly weird, and I get it, but I don't like it. I think in this game, though, I don't know. I don't think there's an opportunity to switch up a drill deck. I feel like with a lot of decks you can have variations. Even with a lava deck, I think there is potential to use that mirror. But when it comes to drill, you need the drill, you need the NATO, you need the Magic Archer.
Yeah. I mean, you saw right there, just not able to create the offense that he needed really ever at all. There was nothing but pressure, and then the dual lane pressure was kind of non-existent, right? There was never an opportunity to go both lanes, and I think, again, just because where the Tesla can be played and for how easy it was to get on top of the drill, it didn't matter. If you send a drill one lane, it would be cleaned up with guards or giant skelly, and then the wall breakers go opposite lane, and yes, it's a -2 trade, but the Tesla is still always available. So putting himself in a tough spot is Pandora. We're going to hop up to the top side of our bracket now to check in with Lucas and Moogie, who have been sitting by waiting all day long. AC, you talked about how both of them dropped their initial game of the day, but after that, it was nothing but perfection throughout. And, you saw Lucas face off against Greco to send him down to where he is now, and Greco's still alive. Moogie on the other side of it, And we are back. I know you missed us. We missed you guys. It wouldn't be a broadcast online without some technical difficulties, so we do apologize for that. But we're very happy for those of you that are still with us here, and I'm sure all of you that will be rejoining us in just one moment. The numbers don't lie, Josh. We have been live for almost 2 hours, and we've only seen 2 sets. Let's check in with our bracket here. Both of our best of fives to start our day have gone the distance, but it is going to be Furkan and Greco facing off to keep their playoff dreams alive, to keep those World Finals hopes a-ticking. But Josh, we're about to hop into our premier matchup of the day, our only best of 3 today between Lucas and Mugi, our world champion. This is going to be an exciting set.
Absolutely. I'm so ready for this. I mean, both players are phenomenal. Both players. I mean, Lucas no longer has his tribe buddy and Wallace still in. So, you know, for tribe, for Brazil, he has to do it now. There's still a few Greco's still in. So, you know, Mugi does have, you know, his Japanese brethren in there. So I don't know about, you know, nationalities and stuff. But I think Brazil wants to stay in this. And, you know, just because of that, I think Lucas is going to take this one.
One of the things we were talking about at the top of the show was the favoritism index here by our 2 winners bracket players. Mugi put on a clinic yesterday with Royal Giant and Drill, and Lucas was doing it with minor poison control a lot. We saw a photo finish from Lucas. I think there was a 2 HP game in there yesterday and a 60 HP game in there. So definitely cutting it a lot closer to the chest was Lucas. And then Mugi on the other side of it, after that game 1, it was pretty much just domination throughout.
Yeah. Mugi, I mean, when Mugi gets hot and he's really playing at his best, he not only rivals Muhammad Light, but he is arguably just a step ahead. I mean, it is crazy to see Mugi when he's at his best. Everything goes right, and yeah, I mean, it's something. I feel like the gameplay is similar, but when it comes down to matchups and, you know, everything just bouncing his way, that's really what happens for Mugi when he plays at his best. It just seems like he's made for the spotlight when it comes to Clash Royale.
And in terms of talking about predictability here, you would expect that they would both come out with the decks that they were strongest with yesterday, but where do they do it? Do you come out in game number 1 with RG and Mortar, or do you save it for game 2 or for game 3? You know they're both going to run Drill at some point, but then, of course, the other 3 decks are up in the air. You figure Mugi will go RG Drill at, in 2 of his games. You figure Lucas will go Mortar plus Drill in 2 of his games. Maybe throw RG in there as a third for him. Hog Rider, also a really, really big potential draw for Mugi. I was looking at his battle log and looking at what he'd been favoring over the last couple, I'd say the last 24 hours. And I was looking back, he was running a lot of Drill, but he was running a lot of Royal Giant as well. But he was really trying to mix things up. If you go back, he's got Bridge Spam in there with P.E.K.K.A. He's got Hog Rider, 2.6 Hog in there. Excuse me, he's got 6-man plus Graveyard. So it really looks like when you go back and look at those battle logs, Mugi is trying to diversify what he's going to bring to the table, maybe try to be a little bit less predictable. Lucas's side on the other side, in the other side of that conversation, when you talk about what his battle log looks like over the last 24-ish hours, we've seen Hog, we've seen Royal Hog, we've also seen the 6-man Graveyard deck. So here we go, game number 1 in our upper bracket. This is a best of 3. And it looks like Hog EQ maybe out of Mugi, and Lucas may be going with E-Giant EQ.
Just waiting for that next card to be used from Lucas. If we see a delay, he will come in with a NATO, and there we go. We do see the NATO on defense. Hog will go to the King Tower, and the Fire Spirit behind, it's not a... I mean, you just place it because you know you're going to get that chip damage. And that's exactly what happens.
So Lucas going to E-Giant and Flying Machine most likely as those last 2 cards. This is one of the versions out there that have started to take over for Electro Giant. I believe Animan actually made this one kind of popular. And with Inferno Tower being the building of choice here for Mugi, Lucas is going to have to kind of pump the brakes on a lot of his E-Giant pushes until he can get that Flying Machine over the middle plus an Earthquake, or the double Earthquake on top of the Inferno. We'll see which route he decides to go as we are 1 minute and 40 seconds through regulation.
So I'm going to use my fingers to count it. So 7 elixir plus... Oh, wait, I'm not on camera. 7 plus 4 plus 4. That Inferno Tower got 15 elixir worth of value. Great situation right there. And that's the thing about E-Giant. It doesn't matter how much value you got on the first one. It's about the second one. E-Giant on the tower, 1943. With the Bomber's help, is going to get the tower very, very low.
Fire Spirit comes out for Mugi there to protect the tower, and now we see a Fire Spirit for pressure out of Lucas. Mugi decides to get a Hog Rider down in the same lane, to not eat that Fire Spirit damage, but then is kind of sending it right into the lane that he doesn't want to focus on. So Lucas just happily plays that Goblin Cage for a full stop, and then the double Earthquake cycle is in. And now Mugi has to take this Elixir advantage and see where he can go with it.
Yeah, that's great because it also does force out another card in response. It does force out the Valk, so that way he can just plop the E-Giant down, force out another Inferno Tower potentially, and just get more Earthquake damage. That's all he's looking for. He's looking for those Earthquakes. He's looking for those mirrored Earthquakes because his defenses are always so easy and they're so elite every time. The Cage plus the NATO is enough to take, just to stop each and every offensive attack. He doesn't need to worry about the second attack because that's when he has the NATO. He doesn't need to worry about the first attack because that's when he has the Cage.
And calling it just as it's being played, the Earthquake cycle is in. Double Earthquake down for Lucas, and Mugi just sitting back and going, all right. You saw Lucas kind of tilt his head right when he recognized Mugi had thrown in the towel. That's what you got to do after that starting game. Lucas very happy to go up 1. Remember, this is a best of 3, not a best of 5. So Lucas already in the driver's seat in this set with a dominant game number 1.
Yeah, I have not seen this Lucas in a very long time. No excitement on his face, no animation with his win. It is just, okay, I won game number 1, let's win game number 2, and hope Mugi makes it to the grand finals with me because then I have a golden ticket locked up. He just needs that golden ticket. Everybody else wants the golden ticket, when it comes to players that need it, he absolutely needs it. He absolutely thinks that he's on the same level as Mookie, same level as Muhammad Light, maybe even above them. He wants to prove to himself. I mean, he wants to prove to everybody else, but I think he really only cares about proving to himself that he's in that upper echelon of talented Clash Royale players.
At this point, it really does feel like Lucas is the one that will be claiming that final golden ticket, or at least claiming a golden ticket here if he doesn't get one today at Royale Masters. He has been a person who I think has been a favorite to be one of the players at World Finals since day one, but he's ran into a lot of difficulties along the way. And of the 5 players that already have it, Inmo Light, Mugi, Arden, Toas, Gens Ozline, and of course Samuel Basoto, you know Muhammad Light, you know Lucas X Gamer feels like he should be right up there with Mo, with Mugi. He's in that conversation. The whole conversation of who's the best Brazilian between him and Wallace and Samuel Basoto is an ever-living one, an evergreen one, and one that I'm always here for. But Lucas needs this golden ticket. You are 100% correct. It would be a shocking blow to the Clash Royale community and to Lucas's confidence, I think, if we didn't see him at the 2022 World Finals. But this is one of the last I guess, easier or more clear paths to that victory, as we have really no idea how that 6-stage event is about to shake down starting in a week with our 20-win challenge. And even just getting that 20-win badge is not as easy as some of these pros make it look. So Lucas, right now, in the lead. Great deck choice in game number 1. I love that he put Mugi in a very, very difficult spot, you know, cycling those earthquakes, making sure that that Valkyrie had to come down as well. Just always making his opponent overspend. And then, like you were talking about, AC, giving him a ton of earthquake value there in game number 1. And I love that he came out with E-Giant in game number 1 as well.
Yeah, I mean, once he got that opening damage and, you know, the Inferno Tower wasn't in cycle, he gets the tower down low. I mean, he didn't look like super excited. He kind of just looked bored because he was like, okay, you know, obviously when you're as talented as Mugi and when you're as talented as Lucas, you kind of understand the situation. You understand if you give up X amount of damage, the game is over. And both players recognize that. So we didn't see his face light up, but it was just obvious. Okay, I need to cycle Earthquake, Earthquake, now Earthquake Mirror, Earthquake, Earthquake, Earthquake Mirror. And it was just so simple once he got in that groove. Yeah, just a brilliant deck choice for game number 1. And really, I mean, yes, he got past the Inferno Tower, but really it was just perfection on defense that eventually kind of just overwhelmed.
And it's one of those moments where Clash Royale, we always say how chess-like the game is as we're hopping into game number 2 right now. But that's a true moment of when masters, or grandmasters, I should say, if we're talking about chess, when 2 grandmasters are playing against each other, it's not always the checkmate. Sometimes it happens really early on when they realize, oh, wow, they just made that incredible play. There is literally no way for me to win this game unless they just forget how to play chess or forget how to play Clash Royale. And you'll see those early game resignations, and that's kind of what we just saw there out of Mugi. Like you said, AC, when that damage came in early on, they both knew exactly where the rest of that game was going. And Lucas with a bit of a head tilt here. We're kind of swapping in terms of Mugi now going to E-Giant, Lucas most likely going to Hog EQ.
Yeah, that champion being cycled in the back is so annoying when you are the defender going against the Electro Giant, because you know they are they are ready to pop that second Electro Giant when possible. Right there, does go in with the pressure, forces out defensive responses. That way his opponent can't go in aggressively with a second Electro Giant. And right here, 1:38 seconds left. But all 4 towers, actually technically all 6 towers, completely untouched until just then.
I like the pressure Royal Ghost there, knowing that Tornado is out of cycle. Lucas trying to keep that pressure up so this E-Giant push doesn't become a lot more threatening. Gets good damage down on top of that. Will mitigate most of the damage. Will probably take, no, actually mitigates 100% of the damage. Giant Skeleton perfectly placed. And Lucas doing a great job defending here early on, and is obviously Royal Giant, not Hog Rider, at the bottom of the screen there, which is going to be a little bit nicer for Lucas as time moves forward. Hog Rider gets less and less strong, I would say, in double and triple elixir, especially against a deck like this, whereas Royal Giant does not.
Yeah, beautiful use of the ability. It's going to take the Fisherman down to about 25% health, but also he is able to escape the bomb's wrath from the Giant Skeleton just because of the ability and the ability timing right there. So Great spot right there. We do see the second Electro Giant with 36 seconds left, the first opportunity for him to be able to pull that off. And it really, it's going to be the story of how, you know, how well does he use this Fisherman? And if he can use it perfectly, he's in a great spot. But I don't think he's going to get the King Tower activation. And right there, great NATO to bring it all together.
E-Spirit to distract that Golden Knight in the right-hand lane. Golden Knight does not end up getting the dash in, but does get a few swings. 1874, lowest tower on the board, to 2733. Lucas back on offense, but that Fish Boy had just enough HP to pull in this Electro Giant. Another Fisherman comes down. 2 bombers plus a brawler on top of the Royal Giant on Mugi's side of the map. Lucas gets a couple shots in, but now a great counter push comes through. Giant Skeleton should deal with all this pretty well.
Yeah, great defense right there. Great offense from both players. Ghost is going to be able to walk in front, so he can elect to go in with another RG if he chooses to do so. We do want to see the Lightning on offense if he wants to try and get past this. Maybe on top of the cage plus bomber. We see it on top of the bomber and the Electro Giant, but not on top of the cage. Still will get 1 shot and a second as well.
Yeah, 2 shots in there, pretty much even in damage now, and another Giant Skeleton comes down defensively as that last little Electro Giant sliver of HP touches that tower down to 1298. 1459. Lucas does know that most likely that card that has not been shown yet is, I'd say maybe at this point it's probably just Rocket. Or no, it's probably still Earthquake, because if it was Rocket, maybe that we would have seen a Rocket come down there on top of the Archer Queen.
Yeah, I think both players, yeah, I think he definitely has to assume that it's going to be Earthquake. Are we going to see the Lightning on top? We do see, gets the Golden Knight and the Brawler, and it will allow 2 shots for the RG. So a beautiful situation right there, and does miss the Electro Spirit Chain. Not going to be able to hit that last bomber. Needs the Fisherman off.
Yeah.
We see the defensive log. Fisherman going to come in, but wow.
Yeah, that's a huge NATO there by Mugi. Now just needs to get the Earthquake cycle in as the RG comes down. 1 Earthquake is in. Lightning comes down defensively. NATO pulls everything back, and it has been nothing but E-Giant dominating this set so far.
Wow, gorgeous gameplay from both players. Lucas with great pressure, great prediction lightnings, able to catch the cage, able to catch the brawler, able to catch the Golden Knight and the Electro Giant and the bomber, never going for the tower damage, which is exactly what you want to see if you are watching the RG player, because you are just giving up, you're giving up too much value if you're not using the lightning on the troops. And on the flip side, I mean, just great, solid gameplay, and then eventually gets that overwhelm push, gets the double elixir Giant, Electro Giant, there you go. Gets the Electro Giant, the double push right there, and then the beautiful NATO timing. I mean, exactly what you want from Mugi, and exactly what you want from Lucas. This is a great set so far.
How do you defend that? I mean, that's really the question, right? When you have the Fisherman as your only opportunity to get that Electro Giant away, you have no building. But if the NATOs are coming in and being saved every single time, I mean, I guess the best thing you can do is try to bait out the Tornado defensively from Mugi, but I think he's too disciplined of a player to let that happen. He knows the only way he's ever actually going to get on tower is by NATOing that Fisherman in, which is what he did time and time again.
Yeah, I think some of it might come down to a little bit too aggressive on offense. Because your opponent only has the Earthquake, you can really stack troops and then use the Fisherman to yank the Electro Giant outside of the vicinity of the Electro Giant, like reflection damage. And then if you get just 1 solid defense like that, you're going to have a crazy counter push, and then you can try and overwhelm. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because you have to maintain the aggression, not allow your opponent to... I mean, once your opponent has the double Electro Giant, it is just so hard to stop.
Yeah, and then we saw that for Lucas really having a hard time. He was just dropping as many units down on the board as he could to get as much DPS in, and then saving that Fisherman to be played on top of his King Tower. But again, that NATO was always ready to go. So you think, okay, if I'm Lucas, maybe that I just need to overwhelm at the bridge, get that lightning down on top of the cage, and then with my Royal Giant going on through to the tower, that's when Mugi will be forced to kind of tornado everything backwards to create a little bit more space defensively. But there was just no way to create that amount of pressure for Lucas and bait that NATO out of Mugi, because Mugi, again, just too disciplined, knowing the only way he could win that game was doing that one thing. And that's one of my favorite things about casting in general, is when you look at players that save that that X Factor card, that ace up their sleeve for the one job that it needs to have, whether it's an E-Spirit for bats or whether it's a NATO for that fish boy. That was really well done by Mugi. And you know, Mugi now looking at his game number 3, a lot of potential options still available. We haven't seen him go to Royal Giant yet in this set, which I think is a really good thing, right? We haven't seen Lucas go to Royal Giant, and we haven't seen Mugi go to, we haven't seen Lucas go to Mortar, and we haven't seen Mugi go to Royal Giant yet in this set. But game number 3, it's tough, right? Because that's where you're like, well, if you're not going to play Mortar at all in this set, was that a mistake for Lucas? And the same question goes for Mugi and Royal Giant. Or is it too predictable now that you are in that final game in this best of 3? Do you think we see them go to their favorites, or do you think they continue to innovate? Because that's kind of what's necessary here at Royale Masters.
I believe that both players have enough respect for each other's gameplay to not really look into what they can use. I think it really comes down to, I think, you know, this is going to be my best opportunity against a wide array of decks. This is the one that I'm going to use. I think as long as I get a 50-50, both players are thinking, if I get a 50-50, I win. And so I don't know if they're really considering the opponent's decks.
So looking at what's already been played from these guys, gonna have to find the correct profile, though. There we go, for Lucas. So Lucas winning game number 1. Tornado and Golden Knight are out of the mix with his E-Giant deck. Same conversation there for Mugi, so I can't imagine we'll be seeing Drill at all in game number 3. Earthquake's still available for Mugi, so maybe Mortar becomes a little bit less exciting for Lucas. And then for Lucas, he still has everything that we just saw him play in terms of Lightning and Log, so probably wanting to steer away from that Archer Queen. We saw the Archer Queen out for Mugi in game number 1, but he did lose with it, so he could go back to that. You know, best of 3s, it's a lot more difficult to decide where they're going to go. But we do know that there's only one game left in this set, so I see you guys in the chat hanging out, watching. Let us know who you think is going to win. Do you think it's going to be Lucas? Do you think it's going to be Mugi? And the idea here for Lucas is obviously to win this set, but also to win this set so he can send Mugi down to the elimination bracket, where Mugi, hopefully, then being the strongest player throughout the tournament, at least in terms of everyone already down in the elimination bracket, if Lucas can send him down there and wreak havoc and then meet Mugi again in the grand finals, as you were mentioning before, AC, that ensures Lucas gets a golden ticket. So if he can just get Mugi down there, because look, Lucas can work through a bottom bracket. We've seen him do it before, but if he can get Mugi down there to shake things up, eliminate a couple more players, that would be a really, really great thing for Lucas. This, for him, has to feel like a bit of a grand finals matchup, just if he puts himself in that right position moving forward to claim that 6th golden ticket, and of course, $10,000. AC, we're 2 games through this set, and both the games have been incredibly one-sided towards E-Giant.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was the exact same deck, too. Yeah, I mean, so that's... First of all, that's pretty cool that Mugi just kind of recognized how strong that deck was. I don't know if he's ever played that deck before, that variant before, and he could have just said, wow, this matches up well against every possible deck. So just to start with that, I think that's really impressive on Mugi's end to have that much confidence in himself just to pick up a deck and play it perfectly. And then, you know, with that, Electro Giant is just strong. Especially in the best of 3 format, because then you can feel free to use your tornadoes. You can use whatever spell you want, whether it be the rocket, the lightning, the earthquake. And right here, Lucas already popping out the mortar. You know, going back to his bread and butter, going back to the one that really won him the most amount of games on day number 1.
So far, it's straight up a mirror matchup, but I'm sure some of these support cards might change just a little bit. And I like the idea of Lucas going out with Mortar up high, play number 1. Really the biggest threats of playing that early on, or if you are going up against E-Giant or something like Golem, when you Mortar first play, you can put yourself in a really bad spot. But thinking that he probably wasn't going to run into Golem and knows that he couldn't run into E-Giant, he goes with a high Mortar first play. And looking like probably Poison and Musketeer as the last 2 cards here for Lucas.
So far, the first 5 cards have been the exact same. The only difference now is that the champions are going to be not the exact same. So the mortar will get the shot. The cannon cart will stay alive long enough to take out the archer queen right there. Guards are going to be able to clean up the mortar, even with the log helping out. And a minute 30 seconds left. Lucas has done very little damage. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, not even a log. So just maybe like a minor shot. And then Mugi has done quite a bit of damage so far.
Yeah, Mugi already with 500 damage on that bottom left-hand tower, so Lucas opts to get another mortar down opposite lane. Mugi kites it away with the Valkyrie, and then maybe a high cannon.
Again, the cannon cart does take out the mortar. The musketeer will be able to lock onto the cannon cart, and the mighty miner is going to be able to protect the musketeer. The log will push the archer queen to the opposing lane, and Mugi still pops the ability. So a tough play for Mugi right there, and a great heads-up spot for Lucas to push that opposite lane. Mortar is going to be able to take the cannon cart almost off its wheels. Not quite, though. Cannon cart is going to be outside of the range. Mortar is going to take the cannon cart low, but this is just a tough spot for Lucas. He's really struggling on getting the damage that he needs. We've seen him only get about 300 HP worth of damage, and time again, Mugi is getting the right push going. Whether it be the miner plus the poison plus the log, whether it be the miner by itself, or even just mortar shots, everything is going right, and even then, he is able to get the guards predict on top of the miner. And something needs to change for Lucas. Otherwise, I mean, he's in such a bad spot. And so far, Mugi is just putting on a clinic. 135 left. Mighty Miner is not going to go back. So one of the things that I was worried about right there is that it was going to go behind the crown tower. And then the mortar was going to be able to lock onto the tower. Not going to be the case. We do see him switch up his pressure. And I like that. But I mean, even then, still no potential for damage. The Mighty Miner will be able to lock, but tower is going to take it out in only 3 shots. Tower surprisingly gets down to 2692, and with a minute and 10 seconds left, I'd really love to see him swap lanes, and that's exactly what we are going to see. Cannon cart on defense, but that's a cannon cart on offense as well. Valk does not push it back, and that's going to be a mistimed log situation. And that's going to be another mistimed log situation on the right side. Cannon cart on the right, going to get the tower all the way down to 1084. 1084 to about 1188 HP, 42 seconds left. We see the guard cycled early, and that's going to give free poison value, as well as, I mean, Lucas is going to struggle with this archer queen. He is going to pop the ability right here, 30 seconds left. Actually, pops the ability on defense. I was thinking that we were going to see the archer queen pop the ability, but not going to happen. 20 seconds left. We see another mistake. Guards are not going to be able to catch the miner. In 16 seconds left, we see the offensive mortar pressure, but still down by 200 HP.
And I am back with a very quick power outage there. This has definitely been an exciting day for us here in terms of the broadcast booth. And only 186 HP remaining on that top left-hand tower. It looks like Lucas was able to bring things back a bit, AC.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to do everything. I mean, that was great by him to get himself back in that situation. But really, it comes down to, I mean, just missed log interaction. If he gets the interaction done correctly, he gets the cannon cart off of his tower, and then the tower is able to take out the cannon cart slowly but surely. Instead, the cannon cart goes back within the range of the tower, takes it down to about 10 or about 1,000 HP, and at that point, Mugi's going to be able to win the spell cycle.
Yeah, so Mugi picking up game number 2 there, and my apologies once again, AC. Just going to have to really lean on you for this post-game analysis as I was away for just a moment there. Just nice little fun power outage, but here we go. So now we are into game number 3. Lucas still has mortar available, and I'm curious there now if we're going to... this is game number 3, right? Going into
yes.
it? Yeah, yeah.
No, wait. Actually, I think Yeah, that was match.
Oh, that was the whole match. See, wow,
Yeah.
this is what happens when you disconnect. So, looks like Lucas is now getting sent down to the lower bracket, which makes his attempt at getting that golden ticket much more difficult. Mugi still staying alive, still staying strong up top, and it ends up being a near mortar mirror matchup that falls to Lucas. And I will admit, those mortar mirror matchups can be incredibly frustrating when you start to go down in damage early on, because then it's just all about catching miners.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I really liked from Lucas, he did switch up his offensive pushes, and so there was several times where he goes in with a mortar one lane and then immediately rushes the bridge with the cannon cart. He defends cannon cart, he defends miner plus log. He did all sorts of, you know, tricky situations for Mugi. And Mugi, for the most part, was able to defend, but he did give himself one lock, and he did give himself one opportunity. And that's all you can ask in that specific mirror match. The Mighty Miner does not fare well against the Archer Queen in that.
Yeah.
And so it was just a great spot for Lucas, and one mistake hurt him.
Yeah, that is actually a really, really good point that you make. And also just the effect in general of that Mighty Miner in that matchup. You're not going to do a lot against the cannon cart. You're not going to do a lot against the guards. Yes, you can catch miners, but it's somewhat difficult. The ability is going to be pretty much a non-factor. Whereas when you talk about the ability of that Archer Queen, going to be incredibly impactful. So that was the only best of 3 today. And we're going to move back down to the lower part of our bracket, where Lucas is technically waiting for the winner of this next matchup. It's going to be Greco going up against Furkan, and whoever ends up taking that will then go on to face off against Lucas. So we have nothing but back-to-back-to-back best of 5s coming your way, as Mugi, the only player with the golden ticket, still sitting pretty up top in our upper bracket. Here we go. Nice check-in here. You can see it was all sunshine and roses for Lucas until he runs into Mugi here, and Lucas will actually be moved down to the bottom there, where he'll be facing off against the winner of Furkan and Greco. Mugi is actually the one there at the top, and that just means that if you end up facing Mugi in the finals from the bottom, you got to beat him twice in back-to-back best of 5s, where we've talked in the past, AC, where winning in back-to-back best of 3s in a grand finals matchup where you have to beat the same dude 4 games out of 6. Now you turn it into 5. So that's 10 games. You've got to win 8 of those 10 games against Mugi. That is a tough draw, my friend.
Yeah, at that point, I mean, really, I would say, especially for Lucas, but also for Furkan and also for Greco, I don't think they care. I really don't think they care to beat Mugi. You know, that's $4,000 they lose out on if they don't beat him. But that is a golden ticket in your hand. You've got a golden ticket, and that's what really matters. You make it to the World Finals, then you get to, you know, really play for the big stacks. And at the end of the day, obviously $4,000 is a lot. Obviously, trying to get a 5-figure payment in your bank account is special, but it comes down to the golden ticket. I really don't think any of these players, I mean, they're gonna care, but they're really not going to care.
Yeah, solid point that you make there, because really what it boils down to is our lower bracket is going to be deciding who gets the golden ticket. So yes, this next best of 5 is still not for fun, because there is still so much on the line, but it's not a deciding best of 5. Whereas the next best of 5 in our elimination bracket, whoever Lucas plays against, that will be for the golden ticket. So this is where Lucas has got to sit back, reset. I'm sure he's incredibly frustrated after that set. But he didn't, you know, he didn't eliminate Mugi if he was able to beat him. Mugi was still a factor, and if Mugi was to get beaten in his next set, then Lucas would still have to be fighting for that golden ticket in the Grand Championship. So now it's all about the lower bracket. These next best of 5s will decide who gets that 6th community golden ticket. And that is going to be given out here from the Royale Masters Gold Edition. Of course, it is our final day of competition. This is our 5th week. We've been going for over a month strong. We've had thousands of competitors put their name in to try to get to this moment. And now only 4 remain. Furkan, Greco, Mugi, and Lucas. And only 3 of them vying for that final golden ticket. We're going to go into this set now in just one moment between Greco and Furkan. AC all fall on the sword early here. I feel like I've seen just a little bit more that has impressed me, just a little bit more out of Greco than Furkan.
You know what? I have to fully agree with you. Furkan, he's shown flashes for sure. Obviously, the consistency throughout the tournament does mean that, you know, even if he had played terrible and he only won because his opponents were repeating cards, still wouldn't matter. You'd still have to say, at least 35% of the time, Furkan's going to walk away with a victory. Right here, I love that he's starting out with the Electro Giant.
Yep.
You start off strong, you start off fast, and you see what happens after that. On the flip side, not going to be the best matchup. I really don't know how it's going to, fare, but we are going to see Zappies with the Inferno Dragon, I think, on the top side, and with the Tombstone as well. This is a good defensive potential on Greco's end.
Yeah, and who knows if Greco was actually looking for the Electro Giant matchup as he goes in early with this graveyard here, maybe trying to protect this Inferno Dragon to create a little bit more of a threat, and that did work. So a NATO has to come out on top of an Earthquake and a Mega Minion, so you can see Greco up 3 Elixir right now.
Yeah, a little bit of a panic play from Furkan because of the Earthquake, it was getting the right timing. The tower was locked onto the Inferno Dragon. NATO back is going to be fine. You're looking for double Elixir anyways, so it really doesn't matter. But that definitely was not a requirement to use the NATO to push it back.
Yeah, a slight panic play there, if you will, from Furkan as he sets up his second Electro Giant push. And clearly he's just going to keep the pressure up. Mega Minion up high as well. This is the third version of Electro Giant we've seen today. One with the Flying Machine, one just classic Bomber, Golden Knight with Skellies for quick cycle, and now we're seeing the other one here with the Mega Minion being thrown in the mix, and this is one that you and I are both fans of.
Wow, that Mega Minion got so much value. Beautiful NATO ability interaction right there. We are going to see the Graveyard plus the arrows once he gets to 3 Elixir. So that is going to be a bridge Electro Giant, and I love that.
Yeah.
You get the pressure in, you NATO it up if you can, you defensive Earthquake if you can, but we don't see that. He's going to get a second Electro Giant up right here, and that's going to be the one that is going to get the real damage. This is a great spot for Furkan. Instead, just tries to reset, and he's down 700 HP, but he has full control of the map.
Yeah, that giant skeleton that crossed the bridge there for Greco was tanking for that graveyard, I think, a lot longer than Furkan was anticipating, probably expecting it to step out of range maybe a little bit more quickly. Now we see the Inferno being dropped down, goes right on top of the cannon there, so great placement and no ability to get, there we go. Now the Inferno gets all NATO'd in, but the Tombstone plus the Zappies plus the giant skeleton body block is making the navigation of these E-Giants very difficult to find their way to that Princess Tower.
And we see the giant skeletons put in the very back behind the King Tower. Not going to go immediately in with the offensive aggression. That is going to allow Furkan to body block and potentially use the Electro Giant up top. Are we going to see that, or are we going to see the Graveyard? We do see it, and that is a great play from Furkan. He delays. His opponent thinks that he can go in with the Graveyard. Not going to be allowed, and that tower only gets hit, I think, twice by the skeletons.
And that was the body block that Furkan was trying to get off the very first time to pull that giant skeleton away. This time it did work out better, and obviously a lot less damage taken. Now a cannon set up high once again. But that's going to be a target there for the Inferno. So you see the Electro Giant being set right in front of it. So he knew the Inferno was coming, baits it out, gets the E-Giant where he wants it. Tombstone's still up. Maybe he goes Bomber on top of the Tombstone. No, he still goes high EQ here. And this deck has been so good for Greco to just lock down those E-Giant pushes.
Yeah, this is such a tough spot for him. Beautiful deck choice from Greco.
Yeah.
Is going to walk away with a victory. And, I mean, the Zappies plus the Tombstone plus the Giant Skeleton plus the Skeleton King, we saw it in that game right there. I mean, great way to stack troops without giving Electro Giant value to it. I mean, all of the troops just stayed alive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest threat for this deck choice out of Greco, and this is that other graveyard deck that you and I were talking about, Fireball in instead of Snowball, but I actually love this deck choice. There's so much on the board that stops that Electro Giant from getting to tower, whether it's to slow it, whether it's to sizzle it down, whether it's to body block it, or whether it's to pull it. There's just so much that is in play to keep that Electro Giant from being a factor. And I love that idea, right? You know, we were talking, it's great that Furkan comes out with E-Giant in game number 1, kind of gets to feel out the playing field. That means he can still go back to E-Giant later in this set, but that matchup specifically for Greco, I believe, was looking for the Electro Giant. He had so many great options, and then be able to turn all of his counter pushes into much more deadly forces with that graveyard on the back end. I think he was looking for E-Giant, and he found it in game number 1.
Absolutely. Just a great, I mean, I don't know if he saw the success from the earlier, or from the previous set, and saw that, you know, he is going against Furkan, so, you know, that's already a player that is more likely to use Electro Giant than any other player.
Yeah.
And so that certainly had to play into why he used that. And it would be interesting if he used that deck solely because of the previous set success with Electro Giant and thought, you know what, if I lose to something else, I lose to something else. I will not lose to the Electro Giant, though.
Yeah, and now Skeleton King out of play, Fireball out of play. We could be seeing Furkan maybe go to 6-man Piggies. That could be a great way to go now with Tombstone out, Fireball out, and like I just said, Skeleton King and Giant Skelly out. That's a good way to get a lot of those big splash damage units out, and of course the threat of the Tombstone pulling everything to the center and a faster cycle than some of the other buildings that could be in play. And for Furkan, you just wonder when he's going to bring that Electro Giant deck back out. Maybe he goes right back to it in game number 2, but I do have to imagine that he probably tries to revisit what has been his most successful win condition throughout this Royale Masters Gold Edition. And it feels like Greco's still maybe looking for it, just in case he's got this Mini P.E.K.K.A. in his deck, and he goes right to E-Giant as well. So Mini P.E.K.K.A. E-Giant, and I think that's also still looking for the idea of an E-Giant mirror matchup, but instead looks like he will be finding Royal Giant, in which this Mini P.E.K.K.A. will be putting in great work. And look at that. Mini P.E.K.K.A. gets a swing on top of the E-Spirit, on top of the Hunter, on top of the Princess Tower, and then allows him to set up with the pump. Wow. Mini P.E.K.K.A. E-Giant pump for Greco.
And now you have to wonder, does he have the mirror and cycle? He does. We do see the second pump come out. Archer Queen at the bridge, and that's potentially going to be very strong, but also potentially could hurt him a lot. We see the bats and we see the NATO, so that's going to be a 5 for 5 with, no, a 6 for 5. So a positive elixir trade because the ability was burned, and just such a good spot for Greco. I mean, you have the Electro Giant and you have the pump already up before double elixir has started. Then you get to play the game. Do I want to go Electro Giants? Do I want to go pumps? And Furkan is just stuck in such a tough spot.
Yep, and then that other pump comes up. Instead of setting up for Electro Giant, which was back around in cycle, Greco opting for the smarter decision, which is to get that pump down. Now we go high Mini P.E.K.K.A. Double Mini P.E.K.K.A. here. First Mini P.E.K.K.A. goes to the Fish Boy. Second Mini P.E.K.K.A. goes to that Royal Giant. That's exactly what Greco was expecting, and he had a great offensive send for it. Now we're going to have to see an overspend here from Furkan. He goes log, but still takes that Mini P.E.K.K.A. shot. Takes 2 Mini P.E.K.K.A. shots, not the third on the right-hand side, and then E-Giant at the bridge. Greco fully in control here. And that's a great NATO.
Yeah, he even gets the NATO interaction as well. Fisherman off the board. Ghost plus log is going to be able to wipe that out. And he's just going to go in again. I was wondering if he wanted to go pump. No, that is not going to be the case. Electro Giant at the bridge. He's going to probably try and set up with the second Electro Giant as well. But no, we do see the bats instead. NATO going to be able to pull it together. Game is going to be over if this push works out.
Wow, this deck from Greco has just been absolutely phenomenal. Those pumps have still been feeding Elixir. 142 HP remains. Now the Mirrored Earthquake comes in to take that tower. And with 15 seconds remaining, Furkan decides to set his phone down, reset. And that's exactly what he needs to do because we are in a best of 5. And he is down 2 games to 0.
Yeah, these first 2 games have been complete domination. I mean, every game, every set has been going best of 5, like the full run through pretty much. But this is the first time we've seen domination from one of these players.
Yeah, and I really think it gets chalked up to deck choice here. Now, you can even see the matchup is technically in favor of Furkan with a higher matchup of 8 for 8 cards, but then you drop one of those cards out, and the matchup leans heavily in favor of Greco. But when you look at the actual straight matchup, even though that sample size is only 33, it does fall in favor of Furkan. But you know, that early Minute P.E.K.K.A getting more value than I think Furkan expected, and then going directly to the pump, lightning comes out, and then like you said, AC, on broadcast, you're like, well, what if he has that mirrored pump? And that one mirrored pump allowed him to set up the second regular pump, and there was just no coming back from that. I mean, you're just in such an elixir hole at that point. Anytime you try to spend elixir anywhere, if your opponent's not making, I'd say more than a -2 trade, you're in trouble. And he got a +1 trade there on top of that Archer Queen. So just brilliance from Greco from top to bottom there.
Yeah, another play that I want to give a special shout out to. It was the double mini P.E.K.K.A.
Yeah.
Where the first mini P.E.K.K.A locked onto the Ghost. It allowed the tower to lock on the Ghost, and with the final shot from the tower or the mini P.E.K.K.A, I forgot which one it was, the Ghost was taken off the board. So then the second mini P.E.K.K.A was able to fully lock onto the RG, not have to worry about getting taken off the board. Then we saw the overextension on defense. We saw the log, plus the mini P.E.K.K.A still getting the shot. All these things combined to allow him to have like a +5 in elixir, a pump and a half still on the board. And at that point, it was over. Just a great defense right there.
I couldn't agree more. That double mini P.E.K.K.A was a sweet play there from Greco. And also, because when that first mini P.E.K.K.A drops down, you know your opponent has to play the Fisherman. There is no other option other than just letting that push die. So the Fisherman comes out, and what do? You immediately mirror that mini P.E.K.K.A. Fisherman goes away, Royal Giant goes away, Royal Ghost goes away, and then the level 13 mini P.E.K.K.A gets 2 shots on the tower with the overextension. Then you set up for the Electro Giant push in the opposite lane. Just a masterclass there by Greco, and E-Giant dominating here today. It was dominating in Lucas and Mugi set. Now it's, well, I mean, they lost game number 1, but it had a tough matchup, and then dominates in game number 2 with another version of E-Giant, right? We've seen, I think, 4 different versions of E-Giant now, and 3 of them have been incredibly successful.
Yeah, and right here in this set, we could see our first, I think...
Yeah, I think it would be our first 3-0 sweep ever in our best of 5s.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I know we've had 1-3-1, but I'm pretty sure, like, with these best of 5s, we're only seeing a go to 5 games. Like, it is insane how often we are seeing the full set get played out. But right here, Greco has played a great game number 1, a great game number 2, and a lot of things are available to him. I mean, you know, no Earthquake, no Pump, no Electro Giant, but those really don't, I mean, besides the NATO, you're not going to use those kind of cards in other decks. So just at this point in time, Greco's in such a good spot, and I'm pretty sure I'm seeing him sweat. You know, the nerves are getting to him, but he's still showing out.
Yeah, Greco got a little bit sweaty yesterday as well, I believe, and looking like we're going to see Mortar here from him, and there it is. Top of our screen is Mortar. Bottom of our screen could also be Mortar. And that will be a Mortar lock as the AQ pops her ability and the guards step up. So right now, Furkan is really struggling with a lot of his interactions in this set, and it's not completely on him. Greco has been putting him in those tough positions.
Yeah, great damage early on. Now the question is, how does he want to follow this up? He could go Minor Bats if he has the Bats in his deck, or he could just let the Musketeer walk, and that's what he's going to decide on. He knows his opponent has to come out with a heavy response, and because of that, he gets a reset. But if he can defend this cannon cart properly, we will see him go on offense once again.
And the log does come in, but those guards will be close enough to take that cannon cart off of its wheels. And a miner goes into the safe spot here. I'd like to see a changeup on miner placement from both of these guys, knowing that NATO is not a factor, although guards are. And cannon cart cycled in the back means it's easier to pull the trigger on that mortar.
As we head into double elixir, the mortars will be able to take each other out. Royal Hogs are going to come down, guards in response to the cannon cart. Mighty Miner can only do so much, so he will need to respond with the guards and the log. So a lot of elixir forced out. But, I mean, the support troops will be able to survive. Going to force out the Archer Queen. And with the poison as well as the drill heating up, the Archer Queen will be taken off the board.
Yeah, nice poison there by Greco, just getting value where it was available. As we see Furkan set up with another mortar, Greco happily cycles his cannon cart in the back, baiting out the mortar, then gets the mortar out defensively, and now just has to deal with these Royal Hogs once again. So this time changes up how he wants to defend. Goes guards plus musketeer this time, but now giving Furkan the poison value. And Mortar will get one shot on the tower. No, it does not. Last shot goes to that musketeer before she gets eaten by that poison. And Greco definitely happy about that. 2104 to 1798 in our elimination game, elimination situation here for Furkan.
Greco has not decided to try and snipe the mortar with the musketeer just yet. So far, every single time he's defended the same way, just with the mortar by itself. Archer Queen has popped its ability, so he will not be, or she will not be able to get any added value that way. Cannon cart will be able to take out the opposing cannon cart, but it does need another mortar. This is a somewhat healthy push if the cannon cart stays alive, but it does not. So Royal Hogs could come out, but still healthy right now. And there we go. We do see the offensive push.
And a lucky little shot there from that mortar of Greco's before it focused on the Hogs. That last shot went to the mortar of Furkan's, but also hit the Royal Hogs that came down maybe just a little bit early. Made that defense a lot easier for Greco, who is still up by over 500 HP here. Those minor poisons are incredibly dangerous, especially with Cannon Cart and Archer Queen out of cycle. That means you know you can go in with a minor poison and you will get value. So guards out of cycle and bats out of cycle now, nothing to catch this miner at all. So no poison comes down, and I think that's a really smart play. Instead goes poison defensively. And that was just a brilliant recognition of the macro there by Greco.
Yeah, I mean, no bats, no guards. Well, I mean, there's no response for the miner, and because of that, he uses the poison on defense here again. We see I mean, not even a mistake, but he just can't catch these miners. Regardless if he has guards in cycle, if he has Archer Queen, if he has bats, he's just not catching these miners. And with 248, all he needs is another miner plus the poison plus the log, and it's going to be a 3-0 sweep.
And that was a excellent set there from Greco. The deck choice, all three deck choices out of him was absolute perfection. Game number one makes it so that Furkan's most threatening win condition in the E-Giant is a non-factor. Then runs the E-Giant Mini P.E.K.K.A pump in game number two to decimate Royal Giant. And then you go to game number three, mortar mirror matchup, except for your win condition is minor poison, theirs is Royal Hogs, and that is an easy W there for Greco. 1, 2, 3 games in the bank, and Furkan gets sent packing.
Yeah, and this is the difference between using the Archer Queen minor variant and the Archer Queen Royal Hogs variant. We saw in Lucas's game that when both players have the exact same matchup, but one has the Archer Queen and one has the Mighty Miner, the Archer Queen will win every single time. Right there, it showed if you are going to use the Royal Hogs, doesn't matter what your champion is, it's not going to work out, and you just don't have that guaranteed damage by the miner, which is what you absolutely need.
Yeah, and when you talk about that miner, you know, that final sequence, or one of those final sequences, was just so great. You know, like we were saying, bats are out of cycle, guards are out of cycle, so miner will not get caught. Don't miner poison this time around. Poison defensively to stop the pileup at the bridge. Then after that's all done, get back around to your miner, send it in, and poison, because you know guards have to come down, or bats. Something has to come down. Let's take a very quick look at our bracket, and then we're going to take another short break, not for us, but for the players, to let them know how much, or to let them reset their decks. And we can see there Moogie fighting to get that championship spot, but not given away yet. You are still up there, Moogie. You still got one more match minimum, and we are going to be going to Lucas versus Greco. Winner of that will have a golden ticket. That is right. So this is our golden ticket matchup, even though it is not our grand finals, and it will be either Lucas or Greco joining us in Helsinki for our Clash Royale League 2022 World Finals, $1 million on the line. And we're going to take a very short break, let them figure out what they want to bring to this best of 5. And then we're giving away that golden ticket. Don't move a muscle. We'll be right back. We are back after a short break to allow our golden player ticket matchup. Time for them to set their decks. Let's take a very quick look in here at our bracket AC as we have come to an end after 5 weeks of competition and thousands of players trying to get that $10,000 prize plus the golden ticket. This is what we're left with. Lucas and Greco there at the bottom. Mugi at the top, still waiting to see whoever wins this best of 5, although it is where we're starting and it is where the action is happening. Lucas and Greco, whoever wins that set will have a golden ticket to World Finals. So one of them is just a few games away from glory. And then, of course, Mugi up there looking to take the biggest part of the prize purse. And talking about that prize purse, let's take a very quick look here at our cash that is going to be given away. AC's got the jacket on. I've got the jacket on. We're ready for our finals and to give away the golden ticket. This is the money that's going to be on the line. AC, break it down for these final few matchups.
That's right. This is technically not the truth because first place is, well, okay. Technically the truth, technically could not be the truth because first place, if Mugi wins, it's $10,000 and $10,000 only. If anybody else wins, you're looking at the golden ticket. But right here, we do have the potential for a second place, finisher receiving $6,000 and the golden ticket. It gets so funky when a previous golden ticket winner wins the competition. $3,000 for the third place finisher, and that's gonna be, the match that we're watching right now. $6,000 and a guaranteed golden ticket, or $3,000, and that's it.
And $19,000 being given away between these next two best of 5s. This is a $9,000 and golden ticket best of 5 that Greco and Lucas are finding themselves in. So you talk about pressure. Well, pressure is amounting, and you talk about momentum, AC, a word that you and I have used a lot over the last 24 hours because of the exceptional display of skill from our momentum players. But then you look now, Greco was sent down to that elimination part of the bracket much earlier than Lucas. He's warmed up. He's seen what decks have worked well from him today. He's had some great deck selections as we saw there in that best of 3 against Furkan. Whereas Lucas, for the first time, loses a set in our playoffs and now is sent down to the elimination bracket, has to go right back into the action with his life on the line. Mentality is in play here in this 5-game set.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to look at is the advantage of not giving up all your decks, more important than the advantage of actually playing best of 5s. This is the first best of 5 from Lucas with this format.
So here we go, best of 5 afoot. Lucas and Greco both starting off with Golden Knights and looking like it could be drill from both of them, although Lucas may be going to Royal Giant with the bar barrel in there. And now with the E-Wiz coming down, still could be, but definitely leaning towards drill. Nice fire spirit there for Greco, perfectly placed. And I love that both these players also have their cams on. This is a golden ticket best of 5. So you want to see how they are faring in terms of having that camera in their face. In Helsinki, they will be live. So another layer there added into the pressure that is mounting in these ever-important situations.
We see the drill not placed directly on top of the tower, giant skeleton placed early, and I was going to say it placed perfectly because of it, but instead the Magic Archer walks a half step and then somehow, some way gets tripped up and starts focusing on the tower.
Yeah, Magic Archer brings that tower all the way down to 2302, which puts Lucas in a 700 HP deficit early on. And that giant skelly bomb going to put in some work with the Golden Knight dash late. There's the dash, there's the bomb. And now Golden Knight will be taken for that Royal Ghost. King Tower activation is missed by Greco, and I'm wondering if that's because of the body block there from the Golden Knight.
That's exactly right. It looks like I mean, a huge mistake, but one that is certainly understandable. It really doesn't make sense how it didn't get pushed, and just an unfortunate situation. An attempted NATO plus the Magic Archer not going to work out, and now there is going to be NATO potential for Greco, and there it is.
Yeah.
Gets the tower down to 1789 plus a Magic Archer lock on the tower.
That is a big-time lineup there for Greco in terms of the connection from the Golden Knight. And like you were just talking about, that connection there with the Magic Archer as well. 1655 to 1605, separated by 50 HP. Lucas, who was down early, was able to even things out with that great Royal Giant plus Golden Knight connection. Greco does good work with the Tornado to bring this back to a basically even game here. And that is another great Golden Knight dash there from Greco.
Yeah, that's going to be beautiful. The Magic Archer, probably a centimeter of a step away from getting onto the tower with the Archer shot. Almost getting there, but just not quite. 1597 to 1580. Every 8 seconds, we see it, we see Lucas's lead just shrink just a little bit extra right here. That is going to be a lock, and that Inferno Tower is going to be placed late.
Yeah, that's a really nice lock. 4 shots in for Lucas. And now the high E is to stop this Inferno Tower from taking out that Giant Skelly before it becomes a factor on Greco's side of the board. And now Lucas setting up for a NATO, and I think he's going to get it. There's the NATO. There's the connection. And that was a beautiful send by Lucas. Takes the game.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Lucas right there. The high Inferno Tower. The first 5 seconds it was on the board, I was thinking, wow, what a great decision. Inferno Tower is going to be able to snipe. It's going to be able to take out the Giant Skeleton. Lucas responds with the high E-Wiz, eventually wins the bridge battle, and eventually wins the game because of that play.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating in these drill mirror matchups. It really always comes down to Magic Archer connections and Golden Knight NATO connections, and you saw both of them get both of those factors in play, but it was Lucas who had many more Magic Archer shots come on through. And that late game NATO, it was brilliant because I think everyone knew, I knew, you knew, I think Greco knew it was coming, but he just had no way to defend adequately to make it so that Golden Knight could not chain to the tower once again. So we see a drill-ish mirror matchup in game number 1 fall in favor of Lucas. And I guess the biggest thing there to take away for Greco is that you most likely do not have to see Lucas play E-Giant now.
Yeah, and that's going to be pretty important. We saw in the previous set by Lucas that he knows how to play it. It was a phenomenal gameplay right there. He understood as soon as he got X amount of damage, he just needed an Earthquake cycle. So yes, not the way you want to start it off, especially after having a 3-0 sweep over Firkin. You want to run the table. You want to keep the momentum. You want to win game 1. You want to win game 2. But Lucas, not deterred, loses against Mugi, immediately bounces back with a great game 1 victory.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what Lucas goes to in game number 2 here. I feel like Royal Giant could be a potential, but for some reason, Hog Earthquake feels like a way he could go with Giant Skelly and Archer Queen. Might be a nice way to have good damage, a good way to control an E-Giant if he were to run into it, and of course being able to keep up that pressure opposite lane. And I think for Greco, it becomes a little bit more difficult because, like you said, Lucas has shown a lot less decks over these 2 days of gameplay just because he has had so much more success early on. So that deck pool for Lucas is really, really big right now. Pretty much everything's still in play other than it feels like E-Giant most likely is the only one just because NATO is no longer a factor. And I'm trying to remember, was there was a NATO in that mini P.E.K.K.A E-Giant deck, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
There was, right? So every version of E-Giant we've seen has had NATO in it. We saw Lucas go to E-Giant in game 1 of his last set to success. He decides to opt in his rotation. At least it appears that he's opting out of it in this rotation of his 5 decks. So going into game number 2, Lucas up 1. Great, as you said, ability to bounce back after that loss from Mugi. As we hop into game number 2, now it's Greco's turn to bounce back.
Oh, the nerves are getting to be more and more as this set goes along. I can't imagine the feeling of Lucas, especially after a missed Archer Queen does allow the Mighty Miner to get to the potential tower, but because of the ability that gets popped, the Archer Queen stays within the range of the Mighty Miner. A huge mistake ends up being just fine. A crazy situation to start this game.
Yeah, I mean, that could not have gone better for Lucas with how badly it started. And you can see Sweat is piling up on Greco's forehead as he's feeling the pressure, and Lucas does go exactly to what I thought he was going to, except for he swaps out the giant skeleton for the Valkyrie, but he does go to hog EQ here in game number 2. We'll see if Greco was expecting that with this deck that he's got. He's obviously got a good sizzle there when it's talking about the Inferno Tower or that Mighty Miner Drill stacking up. Dark Goblin's going to be a great way to get some damage in something that's played in the opposite lane or something like this up high in Inferno Tower.
It's always so fun to watch these pros play these hog decks because Lucas cycled Earthquake and then cycled the Hog. And obviously, when you want to play these Hog EQ cycle decks, you think that the only play you can make is the Hog EQ, you know, or the EQ. But really, he gets the Earthquake damage, which is great. And then he Hogs because he knows his opponent has to respond with the Inferno Tower. So that Hog is solely there to give him a +1 trade. It's not there for any kind of offense.
Yeah, and that is also a really great point for a lot of players watching at home who maybe don't think about that. Sometimes just baiting out negative elixir trades is your goal that cycle around. It's not always about getting tower damage. And now we see Lucas showing the mirror as his final card. Going to have to worry about those double hog pushes or those back-to-back hog pushes. And Greco definitely thinking about that now. This cycle from both players is very difficult to keep up with.
And that is just such a crazy situation for Greco. His opponent has Log and Mirror. So now your Goblin Barrel and Mirror is going to have a lot less success.
Yeah, and you can see Lucas also opting to just go Valkyrie plus Skellies time and time again. He's happy to take that trade. Even if it's negative, it still creates a little bit of presence on the right side of the board here. Now good Earthquake value on the right side, but we see Lucas just opt to reset with this Inferno Tower. Rocket going to come down on top of the tower, and so AQ offset to the right-hand side. And I don't know if that's the way to go for Greco, but we're about to find out. Valkyrie in front of the AQ, Hog opposite lane, most likely. There it is. Inferno Tower comes down, so now the ability to get the second Hog Rider to come down from Lucas is there, and there it is.
And there we go, Archer Queen on the right side, going to get the tower all the way down to 1618, 1806 on the left side, but now the right side is just a bit lower. Greco's Mighty Miner is going to cross the bridge, but just Skellies alone is going to be enough. We see the Valk cycled at the bridge. Earthquake should come down. No, we do see the second Hog Rider, and even with the Log's help, the Hog is going to get to the tower, and that's going to be another swing, I think.
That is massive, all the way down to 304. A great example of min-maxing there from Lucas. He just goes Skellies to defend that barrel, and then gets the level 13 Hog Rider in for some massive swings on the tower, down to 304. And with only 50 seconds remaining, you can see Greco sweating, and also he tilted his head back like he knows this set is all over. And right after a back-to-back-to-back set for Greco, Lucas has now gone back-to-back in games 1 and 2. Greco on the verge of being eliminated, and Lucas about to nab that golden ticket that he's been after for 7 months.
And we see the matchup. I mean, the sample size is only 14, but I am shocked that it's not just 100-0. He has every answer for it. The Log, the Mirror, the Valk. I mean, he has 3 different responses to the Goblin Barrels that will perfectly stop the Goblin Barrel. And at that point, you called it. You know, the Rocket, I like that he was using the Rocket on the tower. I think it gives himself an opportunity to win, but really it ups his percentage from 0 to the 14 that we saw right there.
Yeah, and you know someone like Lucas is not going to allow you to start to rocket cycle. The moment that rocket came down, that's when the pressure really got turned up for Lucas. It was immediately Valkyrie in front of the Archer Queen, Hog Rider opposite lane, get that Inferno Tower out, AQ pops her ability, then the level 13 Hog Rider comes out. Great discipline there by Lucas, not paying attention to anything on the board and sticking true to that game plan. And that is exactly what he planned, was get enough pressure out so that the Inferno has to come out, but there's enough on the board to where you cannot get overwhelmed in the amount of time it takes that Inferno to go down. Second Hog Rider in, and then we saw the same thing moments later in the opposite lane. Just a great game there by Lucas. And those level 13 hog hits are brutal. And Greco take 3 of those in one offensive push was basically the game being sewn up right then and there.
Absolutely. I mean, that is so devastating to see a level 13 hog on your tower. I mean, and I just loved that we saw the level 13 hog. I certainly thought it was going to be, you know, double EQ, double log, double EQ, and that wasn't at all how the game was played. And it was certainly much different than how I would have played that matchup, and it was clearly the most effective way. I mean, even with the matchup advantage being as severe as it was, that was a phenomenal way to attack that matchup.
And I love the fact that because Lucas used the Giant Skeleton in game number 1, he had to use the Valkyrie in game number 2, which ended up putting him in an even better spot matchup-wise, because you can't play that Giant Skeleton on the front of the tower the same way that you can a Valkyrie against those drills. So now Lucas looking like he could be going to Graveyard, maybe goes to the Skies, and Greco going back to Drill.
Yeah, Lucas has ran Lava Fireball before, and this is still looking like it could be either of them so far, but because of the... Actually, I would say it is Lava because of how much he's struggling against the Drill. I think any other deck would have a lot more success against it, and there we go, we do see the Loon.
Yep, Loon in behind that Mighty Miner, whose ability was popped to take care of the goblins from that Drill. And the balloon will not get a drop with the help from that Magic Archer. Did it hit the tower, though?
Yeah, it did.
Wow, 2605. And now 3 Magic Archer shots, 2, excuse me, going to come into that left-hand lane. Lucas down by 1100 as he sets up his very first Lava Hound push.
Inferno Dragon is going to be able to take out the Golden Knight. Golden Knight will get the tower down to 391, and with the Fire Spirit plus the Skeletons, that Inferno Dragon is not going to be trouble. On the flip side, not a ton of elixir to take out this lava. Inferno Tower should follow in shortly. Otherwise, he's going to give up that tower, and I don't know if that's the correct play to make.
Yeah, that's I think a little bit too much HP to give away, but I guess maybe Greco just looks at the situation and goes, I have nothing else that I can drop down other than the Inferno, but then the Inferno Tower will get eaten alive by the pups and the Skelly Dragon behind. So Lucas finds himself up 1 tower, but basically even here as that log comes down. 23 HP remains, and now Lucas technically in the deficit because that 23 HP is a non-factor.
Yeah, and I love that he's using the lava on the opposite end. I was thinking that it was going to be way too difficult for him to go on the left, just because his opponent has the opportunity to go Inferno Tower directly on top. He can make a lot of really interesting plays, and now he can set up with double lavas, he can set up with double loons. There's all sorts of plays that he can make, and right here we are going to see the Mighty Miner potential going in, popping the ability, and getting directly onto the tower. No, just going to elect to try and get one big push.
So he goes Lava Hound in the pocket, and now that Inferno Tower eaten alive by the balloon plus the Skelly Drag. Lava will get to tower, but not before that Inferno put in work. I think that Inferno got a little bit more than Lucas expected, and now not much damage done. 1237 to 2317.
Log will come down. Golden Knight will not be able to make it to the tower, though. Skeleton Dragons plus both towers are going to take out the goblins fairly quickly, but not too fast. And the problem is now, you know, he can't go in with the lava over the middle because you know your opponent is just going to Inferno Tower. He basically has to win right here, and I don't think Greco is going to allow that to happen.
Yep, and there's the Golden Knight to catch the Mighty Miner. Greco just waiting for Lucas to use that ability. Goblin Drill comes in, and it looks like Greco could be taking this to a minimum of game number 4, but still 73 seconds remain. 409, 2151. Lucas needs a miracle.
I would like to see him go in with a Loon Mighty Miner push. We do see the Loon, but it is followed by the Skeleton Dragons. It's just going to be too easy for him to clean that up with the Inferno Tower, plus the Tower's help, plus the Magic Archer's help. He gave himself a chance, but yeah, it's just too difficult. Zap going to come out. I mean, he's doing everything that he can. It's just, we know what will eventually happen.
And Drill goes to the front. Tombstone is there to catch. Lucas trying to make a case of this, but the log will come in, and the Goblins will also get on top of tower. And now Greco goes to game number 4. Lava Hound not working out for Lucas here. The early tower trade felt like maybe a misstep from Greco, but I guess you understand when there was just really nothing better for him to play in that moment with the Skeleton Dragon and the Lava Hound on top of tower. He just opts to get as much damage in on that right-hand tower as he could with the drill, which ended up becoming a really big factor in that late game.
Yeah, and right here, matchup only 7 of 8, so no perfect matchup, but a sample size of 820 and a 50-50, a direct 50-50. I mean, that's very telling of the matchup. It felt like, I mean, you have the right responses when you're using drill, but at the same time, you get overwhelmed one time and you just lose the game outright. So it makes sense that the basic matchup is 50-50, but it also makes sense that the quick cycle Inferno Tower played by the pro is going to win more often than not.
Yeah, because, you know, when it was down to how Lucas could defend against those drills, it was either a Mighty Miner plus his ability, or it was something like Skeleton Dragons plus a Zap, but you really had to hold that Zap to deal with the Inferno Tower. So then it really became down to, all right, well, how am I going to defend and take some damage, but not a lot, because I have to have these other responses available. And also, factoring that in, Skelly Drags are cheaper than the Mighty Miner plus his ability by 2 elixir. So then you're thinking, all right, well, I also need to be conservative with my elixir. So how do I defend these drills? And that was really the biggest kind of conversation that Lucas had to figure out. He couldn't really figure it out because I don't think the answer was really there, because anytime that you were able to defend those drills, it slowed down your offensive sequence. And a lot of times what that means is your Lava Hound just goes unescorted to no man's land, and then you run into that Inferno Tower. And plus the magic archers from Greco always being out of range for Lucas to get on top of. So great deck choice there by Greco in game number 3. And now he finds himself in a 2-1 situation, still back up against the wall, trying to even things up here as we go into game number 4.
Yeah, a reverse sweep to be able to pull off a golden ticket would be the, I mean, I want to say amazing, like most amazing thing ever, but I would definitely have to describe it as the sickest thing I've ever seen. Because sick as in great for Greco, that is an incredible comeback, and then sick as in, oh my goodness, I can't imagine how Lucas would feel. So I know Lucas is going to do his best to attempt to stop that comeback. Game 3, I mean, it was a great game from Greco, but I feel like Lucas also played fairly well.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't make, you know, mistake after mistake or anything. I think he was disciplined in how he wanted to defend, and it just eventually didn't work out for him. So I still have to feel good if I'm Lucas. You just kind of have to figure out that new deck. I really don't like Lava in these situations.
Yeah.
I like continuing to use the meta, continuing to use the Mortar, the Royal Hogs, the RG decks, even Graveyard before I would use Lava again.
And that's kind of where I think I want to see Lucas go here in game number 4, is going to Royal Giant. You know, no drill, no NATO, no Inferno Tower, no log available for Greco, and also, you know, no... Yeah, I mean, those are the things that are unavailable for Greco. And then in terms of Lucas and what he does have available, he's got basically everything he needs to build a good Royal Giant deck. It's just going to come down to what spell he wants to use. Earthquake isn't available. Maybe you just go RG Lightning here in this game, because Greco could also want to bring out that Archer Queen. It's definitely a tempting card to pull out here. So yeah, a lot of it factors up in the air. I don't know if Mortar is the way to go in this game for Lucas. For some reason, I really do feel like RG Lightning is the way that he should go, but obviously I'm not the one that is making decisions. And then for Greco, you got to look at what's unavailable for Lucas, right? No log, no Inferno, no Earthquake, no Archer Queen, no NATO, no Drill, no Royal Ghost. So maybe potential for something like Royal Hogs. We'll see. So it looks like Lucas is opting to go to Mortar, and it will be against Bait.
So Mortar without log, going to be the Snowball instead. Cannon Cart will be able to take out the Dark Goblin and provide a little bit of value offensively. A defensive rocket going to come out, and it's going to come out in time. Not going to allow the mortar to get one shot.
Yeah, it looks like Greco was probably hovering that rocket. Hits the cannon cart, hits the mortar, and they find themselves even in elixir. But Greco down in HP early on, which is usually not the case when you're running that deck. Usually when you're running that bait deck, you go up in damage early. And delivery plus Mighty Miner here to defend.
How does Lucas want to approach this? Does he have the cannon cart in cycle? If so, should be an easy defense. Instead, going to force out the Mighty Miner. And that's going to be a little bit of trouble just because he does not have that log. So just every time he uses the Goblin Barrel with troops in front supporting it, he's just going to struggle a lot to take him out.
Yeah, Lucas is always going to have to double spend on that, whether it's guards plus snowball, snowball plus fire spirit, whatever it is going to be. Lucas is always going to have to spend a little bit more than he'd like, but that's a very fortunate mortar connection there. Now Tesla comes down. Mortar will get one shot on the tower. 22-54 to 23-32. Bait deck coming back into this conversation.
Not going to use the snowball on offense, technically giving rocket value if he chooses to do so. Just because the Tesla is alive, you do have that opportunity. Guards plus... No, he's going to go in with a snowball plus fire spirit, going to be able to take that out. That Dark Goblin is getting so much value.
So much value. High Tesla here to protect the Dark Goblin and distract the mortar. Then a barrel goes in. Dark Goblin will take care of the cannon cart, so it no longer is a threat. Mortar on Lucas's side should get a shot on tower.
Yeah,
and
that
it does
should be.
with the splash.
Yeah, there you go. Gets the splash damage onto the tower. Plus the poison is going to get the tower all the way down to about 1300, 1358. Are we going to see the snowball again, or are we going to see a different response? Does mess up the timing or messes up the interaction, and that tower is going to get down to 1612.
And Dark Goblin going to get a lot of value again, but Mortar Shot will come out on top of the Dark Goblin, and the Dark Goblins have not been protected the way that Greco wants to so far in this game, in an ever-important game. Only a minute and 40 seconds remain between our next golden ticket holder or a game number 5.
Greco in a very, and that's going to be a prediction guards. It's not going to work out just right, just because the guards were a little bit too early, but a great spot right there. And, actually, I want to... Okay, there we go. We do see the defensive snowball. Yeah. Absolutely necessary right there. The way that heats up and takes out towers is just way too scary to allow. Oh, yeah. I mean... oh, yeah. And Greco is just struggling so much to take out these miners. It feels like every miner locks onto the tower and never locks onto the Mighty Miner.
And that time we did see a nice protection there, and then Greco, recognizing the Mighty Miner just a little bit too low, has to mirror the Ice Spirit. Probably not the play he wanted to go for. And now once again, Dark Goblin going to get taken off the board by the poison and the mortar shot coming in. Greco has not been protecting those Dark Goblins, and that is the name of the game. Mirrored Barrel comes in, guards up high, Goblin down low, gets taken out by the Fire Spirit. Lucas playing this immaculately.
Yeah, this kind of pressure is insane. 2 sets of guards up, I believe, and now gets another set of guards, and that cannon cart staying alive in that specific situation is going to help so much. 1252 to 388, 20 seconds left. It doesn't matter that the delivery is down. He's going to be able to win this game if he defends one more time.
And there you go, double barrel in again, but defense already set up. Lucas, as you can see the celebration, he knows what's up. He's going to Helsinki, Finland. He's battling for that $1 million prize at the Clash Royale League World Finals. We have our 6th golden ticket holder, and now you can see the celebration coming out from Lucas. You were talking about it earlier, AC. No big celebrations until you get what you want, and he's got that golden ticket.
I really want to see how he focuses in this next set. I mean, the competitor that Lucas is, you know that he's going to be able to focus, he's going to be able to reset, but I also know that he doesn't even want to. He's just so excited. I'm very happy for Lucas. Of the players that I believe deserve a golden ticket opportunity, you know, a world finals berth, he's one of those select few. And yeah, I mean, just all the props in the world to Lucas. Congratulations on making it to Helsinki.
You saw right there 16 plus leaked elixir from Greco, which is just a true sign of him not knowing what to do and when to do it. Just kind of playing out of sorts, playing uncomfortably. And congratulations to him. He's walking away with a nice little prize purse there, but still in the hunt for that golden ticket is Greco. We have our 6 finalists in Samuel Basoto, Mohamed Light, Mugi, Gens Aslan, Arden Toas, and now Lucas X Gamer from Brazil. 6 players guaranteed to be in the mix for those world finals, that $1 million cash prize. And of course, the other 10 will be decided over the next month and a half or so. We'll figure out who will be there in Helsinki in September. But congratulations to Lucas, a very well-deserved victory. And now he has to reset and go back up against Mugi, who was the man that sent him down to the elimination bracket. But as you said, Josh, I'm pretty sure Lucas has already got the prize that he wanted on the day.
Yeah, and I mean, Mugi, on the other hand, this is going to be actually really interesting for Mugi, because the way Mugi got his ticket was by finishing second place to Mohamed Light.
Yeah.
So he wants to prove to everybody that he actually deserves it. It's not just because Mohamed Light, you know, wasn't in this competition. He did enter the last chance qualifier, which is, you know, how Mugi, how Lucas both qualified. And he just wants to show that, you know, yes, he got the golden ticket officially that way, but yes, he deserves to be there. Yes, he's the defending world champion. And yes, he's going to defend his title again.
Let's take a look here at our bracket. A very long journey for 5 weeks, thousands of competitors, and we are down to 2. And I would say, I'm going to echo that same sentiment, Josh, for Lucas. I'm sure Lucas doesn't want to be the person that was given the golden ticket by the guy that was given the golden ticket, right? He wants to earn one on his own as well. So like you said, I imagine Lucas being the competitor he is, he's going to give it everything he can. But remember, Lucas has to go back to back in 2 best-of-5s to actually claim that golden ticket over Mugi on his own, in terms of being able to earn it on his own. Mugi only needs to win this 1 best-of-5 to be the true champion of the Royale Masters Gold Edition. And yes, Wallace was eliminated, but a big shout out to our former champion of Royale Masters in Wallace, who will be definitely fighting to try to be there at World Finals. He's probably the next guy on the list for me, AC, of people out there in the world that have yet to receive a golden ticket who really feel like they need one. Morton's another one that a lot of people are going to talk about. And of course, a lot of the competitors that we've seen in Royale Masters are out there in the mix as well. But when you talk about maybe that number 1, number 2 spots, it feels like the guys that are up there in that conversation are Wallace and maybe Viper.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other players that I really would place in that discussion. And, you know, there's a couple people that I instantly think of. You know, Ian is one of those players.
Ian.
But it doesn't feel, I mean, it really does feel like those two, and then everybody else, and then everybody else.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, yeah, hopefully both of those players make it. I mean, so far with the players that we have, it is going to be a great World Finals. I mean, we already have, I mean, we do have Arden Toas and we do have Aslan as, you know, 2 of those newer players that no one really fully expected to get there.
Yeah.
And then we have the 4 players of Basoto, Lucas, Mugi, and Mohamed Light. Those seem to be the 4 strongest players in the world right now, and they've already confirmed their berth.
Yeah, you know, the conversation does get brought up a lot, and I saw other people talking about it on Twitter about, you know, what's the best competitive format. You heard me talk to Max about his favorite format on our episode of 3 Crowns. When you look at the people that have already qualified, I understand that people can always pick apart certain competitions or maybe favoritism to regions, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at the people that have qualified, it feels very appropriate. You know, you're always going to have people that make it that you're a little bit surprised, like you said, Arden Toas and Gens Aslan. I think Aslan has been someone that's consistently been close, but maybe was not someone you expected at World Finals. But he's definitely proven he belongs to be there here in 2022. Arden Toas is kind of like the hot young rookie or sophomore now that you're like, well, can he keep that ride going? Can he actually stay consistent, or did he just get lucky a few times? And then the other 4 players are 4 players that it feels like World Finals wouldn't be complete without, in Lucas and Basoto, and of course Mohamed Light and Mugi. And it really, really felt like we needed to see Mohamed Light and Mugi in our World Finals, and we're gonna get it. We've known that for a while now. But now as we get to our Grand Finals of Royale Masters Gold Edition, this is a true 2022 World Finals matchup. Both these guys will be there. They might face off each other again, so this could be the beginning of a long storyline for both Mugi and Lucas. Here we go. Royale Masters Gold Edition Grand Finals. A lot of money on the line here. Golden ticket in the hand of both of these players. This is all about pride and, of course, gold.
Both players starting out with the exact same first 5 cards. A funny interaction right there, but this is going to be slightly scary for Lucas. If there is no log, no, he does have the log, so he is going to be able to push the hog off the tower. Only 1 shot from the hog, and I mean, 2 elixir extra spent from Lucas, but the exact same amount of damage until that fire spirit comes down.
Yep, Mugi just doing a nice fire spirit pressure there in the opposite lane. Doesn't bring it down below 2734, being the lowest tower on both sides. And Earthquake changing that conversation up, never mind.
So this is kind of exactly what I expected from Lucas. He's going to go cycle, but something that he's familiar with. I don't really expect to see him go with anything too crazy until he reaches the second set, just because, you know, the momentum brought him here, and he's very happy for that. And now he just needs to kind of relax. He needs to set himself up for 2 different sets. And so the first set is always going to be easiest to just run with what you know, run with what you're comfortable with, and then just try and figure out what happens in set number 2 if you get there.
Nice fire spirit there to protect the Archer Queen. Now the Archer Queen going to stay locked on the Giant Skelly, but Giant Skelly goes down, so interaction falls in favor of Mugi, who sends a Hog Rider in to protect that AQ. And of course the EQ comes down as well. And that is, again, a really nice push there by Mugi, but really nicely defended by Lucas. 2294 to 2572. And when you start to slip away 2 or 3 hog hits away, that's when danger comes in.
Wow, and I was going to say great body block from Lucas to stop the hog, which it was, but an even better body block from Mugi. That's going to bring the hog, I thought it was going to reach the tower, instead does fall back to the cannon. 25 seconds left. Slight advantage for Mugi, but both players are playing this extraordinarily well. It just depends on how this double elixir goes, and then once triple elixir happens, that's when both players are going to figure out, do they even still want to go with hogs, or do they want to go with the earthquake cycle?
And Lucas, clearly feeling that deficit, decides to go in for a Hog Rider opposite lane. Giant Skeleton Bomb will make some good work of that AQ, pushes her back and away. Not a great use of the ability there by Mugi, kind of a waste of 1 elixir, but there's worse things that could happen in this situation where he's still up by 400.
Yeah, and right there, I'm not a huge fan of using the Giant Skeleton in the very back. I think it just allows your opponent to go all in on offense, and then, you know, each time there's going to be troops stacked over the middle, both players are just going to have the bridge battle be won by each other. You know, the Giant Skeletons are going to die off, and they are going to take out the counter pushes. So it's always scary to see a Giant Skeleton cycled in the back, because I feel like it just doesn't get the value it should.
High Giant Skelly and High Cannon have to come out here for Lucas. There's the High Earthquake from Mugi, and now this Hog Rider is just going to go straight on through to the tower. Lucas defending in a manner that's allowing him to set up for a push in the opposite lane. But with those 3 hog hits coming in, the well play comes out from Lucas, and that is most likely just GG here in game number 1.
Yeah, Lucas was never able to set up the Giant Skeleton hog push that he actually wanted. And I was going to say, you know, a brilliant job of using the Giant Skeleton to push it to the cannon, you know, outside of the Earthquake cannon plus tower range. But it just doesn't matter. A brilliant game from Mugi. And it's weird to say it, but Lucas got outplayed in a hog mirror match.
Yeah, Lucas, one of the better hog players out there in the world. But Mugi just in control of that entire game, got hog hits early on, got the better cycle out, made Lucas have to overspend defensively. Some of those Archer Queen abilities from both players weren't ideal, but it felt like Lucas's misplay with his Archer Queen, it wasn't even a misplay, it was just more so an interaction that didn't go his way, was a lot more of a damper on his success than any of Mugi's. And then, of course, the fact that you saw Lucas early on start to go opposite lane when he was down 400 HP just allowed Mugi to continue to keep pressure up and min-max the way that he wanted, because he could allow those hog shots to come in from Lucas on the left-hand side with under defending, and then he could go back in with bigger offenses.
Yeah, it was pretty surprising to see Lucas, and it wasn't just one time, it was multiple times where he went in with a hog opposite lane. Really, your best offensive potential is always going to be Giant Skeleton in front, hog behind, Archer Queen, you know, bringing up the rear, and then the Earthquake whenever you get the elixir. And so to see him use the hog opposite lane time and time again, it was just surprising and not something that I really expected from him.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like he was down in damage and was trying to look for anything that could make his life a bit easier, a bit more successful. But yeah, at that point, you were just really in a tough spot. You can see there, 8 of 8 cards, 24, 50-50. Doesn't matter if you take one of those cards away and add in 16,820 more matches, it's still a 50-50 matchup, as it is a mirror matchup. So no surprise there in those numbers. But when you look at the way Mugi played it, he was truly in control. So now Mugi, just 2 games away from becoming the Royale Masters Gold Edition champion here in 2022, and technically being able to then say, I really did earn my golden ticket. Mohamed Light didn't just give one to me, and then Mugi was able to give his on to Lucas. Lucas looking to bounce back in game number 2, and you know, the conversation becomes interesting now, AC, with Lucas going really comfortable in game number 1, and now down a game in a set that is much more important to him than Mugi. Mugi's just playing with house money. Do you think he kind of turns it up a little bit, or does he just kind of continue with the fact that, you know what, I'm going to play the decks that I have fun with, the decks that I know I'm good with. I don't need to go and look for this dual mode sniping situation because I've already got my golden ticket. Where do you think the mindset is of Lucas as we hop into game 2?
I mean, I really don't think anything changes all that much. I think he could go back to, you know, maybe a previous set where he had success with, you know, a deck 1, a deck 2, and a deck 3, and then just try and pull that off once again. But I really expect to see just straight up meta decks and straight up decks that he's comfortable with this entire set, regardless of how games 1, 2, 3, and 4 go.
And it looks like we joined this game just a step late, but I'm imagining it was something like a Golden Knight connection with the drill, or a nice Magic Archer lineup on top of a Mighty Miner or Royal Delivery that got Lucas that substantial lead here early on. And Mighty Miner perfectly placed there by Mugi up front, going to mitigate all the damage. 12-12 to 26-81. Mugi down by a lot.
Magic Archer placed over the middle, going to be able to take out the Mighty Miner and stay fairly close to perfect in health. Delivery in response to the Magic Archer, but because the Magic Archer got one shot, the delivery, I don't think would have got a shot. I don't know if that ghost was necessary. Okay, we do see the Dark Goblin cross the bridge. Golden Knight will be able to get the dash on both troops, but the Mighty Miner will pop its ability at nearly the same time. Does he have the elixir amount he needs? He absolutely does, and will protect that tower. 1400 HP separating the two players. The level 13 Dark Goblin will stay alive just long enough to have the level 11 help out its little buddy. Dark Goblin and Dark Goblin once again. I like that Mugi's doing this. I think if he's going to win, he needs to switch something up, try and, you know, pull something off. And the double Dark Goblin is a great method to try and pull that off. I love that he chose to use double Dark Goblin as his method of choice to try and get this comeback. Inferno Tower to take out the Giant Skeleton. We always see it, but I will always comment on it. Great Skellies. We always see the Skellies. We always see the Fire Spirit placed up top to try and protect that Inferno Tower, so that way it can have a second push walk into its wrath. $145 left. We do see the mirrored Goblin Barrel. Just, this is the Inferno Tower that I was talking about. It was able to take it out. Delivery on the right side, almost able to take out the Magic Archer. Not going to happen. Golden, yeah, everything is on the tower. Doesn't matter that there's a second Royal Delivery. Just because it's level 13 doesn't mean his tower is not going down. And a great game 2 response from Lucas to bring it tied up 1-1 in the first best of 5, potentially the first of 2, but also potentially 1 of 1. Just depends whether or not Mugi can really bounce back and take games 3 and potentially 4 or 5. But a great overall victory from Lucas. If you guys could not tell, I am by myself. Andrew is having a little bit of trouble with his power, but he should be back shortly. This is the overall game. Unfortunately, we did not see the open to it, but we did see the end. Leaked Elixir 11.3 to 3.3. A lot of the times we see it, and it's always easy to comment on. If you leak Elixir, your chances of winning go down significantly. Just a regular drill matchup going against a bait with Inferno Tower. Instead of the cannon variation that we often see, I don't know if the cannon variation would have been a little bit easier. You would have to assume just because you can get around to more deliveries, more cannons. I like the potential of Inferno Tower, and you have to assume that it's because, I mean, it really could be because he knows that his opponent is going to these easier decks to manage. You know, if you know your opponent will likely run Electro Giant or will likely run Lava, you can swap the Inferno Tower for the cannon. But I really do believe that the cannon would have been the better choice. And yeah, that's not what we saw. And we are going to head into game 3 shortly. Now, I get to place myself on the spot, believe, and try and figure out what deck each player will run. Lucas has one with Golden Knight. He has one with the Golden Knight drill deck with NATO. And then Mugi was able to win with the Hog EQ Cannon Archer Queen. So the Archer Queen is out from Mugi's end. Golden Knight is out from Lucas's side. With Login EQ out of the way for Mugi and not going to have to worry about the drill. I'm trying to look through Mugi's battle log right now, try and figure out what is, really opening up to me. He could go in with drill himself. He could go in with potentially an RG Lightning plus Bar Barrel. I think it's going to be easier to look at Lucas's side because, I mean, Mugi really does only have, RG and drill. And then Lucas on the other side, he still has a fair bit of options available to him with... Yeah, he still does have a fair bit of options to him. So, as we head into game number 3, he has used the log and the Electro Spirit. 2:24 left in the game. Mugi just fine with leaking Elixir, not going to activate the King Tower, and just going to fully wait. Both players deciding to potentially wait to double Elixir. And is that Andrew? I hear Andrew. How you doing?
Oh, just apparently everyone in the world, or at least in all of Southern California, is maybe using their AC today. And I'm assuming that's maybe causing some of the power outages, but I'm back. And I saw that we are all evened up here going into game number 3. I was able to pull it up on my phone, and I thank you for having my back today.
Were you making that air conditioner comment just because you know that my air conditioner is broken and wanted to rub it in, or?
Yeah, I mean, mine's been cranked the entire broadcast. I've been sitting pretty here, but I am the one that's gone power outage twice now, so I feel like you're probably actually the one that's winning today. And
you say that, but my shirt is drenched.
And right now we're catching Lucas and Mugi in a bit of a staring match. Now a Dark Prince finally comes into play. Mugi may be going to Electro Giant. With that cage coming out, that's what it's been meaning more and more.
Yeah, and this could actually be the exact deck that was used in the previous set between the two players. If he is going to... No, he is going to pop out the Golem.
Wow.
So nothing about a previous set is going to be what's happening here. It's going to be Mother Witch, Archer Queen, RG going against Golem, NATO, Golden Knight.
That's a nice connection there for that Dark Prince, plus the NATO defensively here from Lucas, putting in a lot of work. And now that Mother Witch going to come down just in time to spawn one piggy. That piggy would have distracted the Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon cleaned up just in time. And now with Lucas cycling that Dark Prince in the opposite lane, he might have some trouble defending here. We'll see.
Yeah, he is going to pull the Golem opposite lane. Dark Prince will make the jump all the way back. Cannon Cart will actually be able to lock onto the Dark Prince because of it. And that is a great timing for Lucas. Not going to have to worry about the Cannon Cart crossing. And that is going to be a King Tower activation. A great setup for Lucas right there.
Yeah, that whole sequence for Lucas was just exceptional. But now, because of that Golden Knight dash, the Cannon Cart needs to be tended to. Great job there with the E-Spirit. Cannon Cart will still get a shot on tower. No, it does not. And that was maybe one of the prettiest defenses I have seen in a very long time.
Yeah, everything that could go wrong did not go wrong. Lucas played that so beautifully. Are we going to see the aggressive RG at the bridge? That is absolutely what we are going to see. Archer Queen will not come down to snipe the Baby Dragon. So this is going to be a full push coming in from Mugi's side. Lightning going to come down, but not hit the Brawler.
Yeah, Lightning doesn't clean anything off the board there. Baby Dragon plus the Golden Knight plus the Brawler all stays alive. Then you get a Cannon Cart in tow. Great connection there with the Golden Knight. Now needs to tend to that Cannon Cart again, but cannot do it in time. Cannon Cart locked onto the tower, then pushed away by the AQ.
RG could be placed at the bridge because we do see the Golem in the back. Will activate the ability force out the bar barrel, but he is going to go opposite lane, and I love this decision. I think it's absolutely necessary to go opposite lane. One thing that I'm not sure about, okay, Fisherman, that is a great interaction, and RG will be able to lock as well as bring the Golden Knight to the left lane.
And should be able to get another Fisherman down. You see the bar barrel looking for that low Fisherman to pull the King Tower. Now the Law, now the Fish Boy comes out. AQ up high to help with that Baby Dragon, and going to take the Cannon Cart off of its wheels. Lucas is still in this, even though he has been on his heels for most of this game number 3. 20 seconds remain, 1916 to 911. Lucas needs to make something happen, and it needs to happen right now.
Trying to get the Lightning off, does go onto the Brawler, not going to be able to hit the Cannon Cart. That log is going to make it go to the Cannon Cart instead of the tower. Not going to matter, still would have been able to defend. Mugi taking a beautiful game number 3, bringing it back to his advantage.
With Golem. I gotta say, Golem has been a very interesting win condition all throughout Royale Masters. It's probably barely above a 50% win rate, but the times that it gets brought out to pick up those wins, it has been such a dominant fashion when it does win, and that was a great deck choice there. I mean, I think the best thing about that game, and it's something that I'm going to steal from your book, is one of the better played games by someone that lost. All the interactions kind of going his way for so long, but really was overwhelmed for most of that entire game.
Yeah, that was some special defense, you know, cycling the Dark Prince, and I was thinking the exact same thing as you. I was like, oh, but you know, you're not going to have enough elixir. How are you going to try and manage this? And then he immediately pulls it opposite lane. You know, all sorts of King Tower activations, all sorts of lightnings on defense, you know, using lightning on offense, but not overextending. It was a really well done game by Lucas, but the matchup advantage was too strong.
Yeah.
And also, he placed the Golem at the bridge with about 20 seconds left just because there was still a 1 HP Fisherman. So it yanked the Golem to the Crown Tower.
Right.
That was really good recognition from Mugi. I mean, it was both players playing at a 10 out of 10 level, and the player with the matchup advantage won.
Let's take a look here at the replay that we have going. I think it's the last minute plus here of gameplay to kind of look at how things shook out for Lucas, and this was still him just defending really well. Log comes in, but that NATO, you know, there was so much going on. I missed the NATO. That was a great NATO there from Mugi. We've seen him do great stuff with NATO work in E-Giants. Now we're seeing it again here with Golem. And then this is what you're talking about, AC. That Golem at the bridge. No support, no problem. Second Fish Boy does have to come down, so Golem doesn't technically make it to tower. But because of that, Lucas is distracted by his offense, or distracted with his offense, not able to defend and not able to offend both perfectly in that moment. And that's because of that great heads-up play there by Mugi. And that's also just like one of the unsung things that's so obvious about Clash Royale. You have to do this in order to even be a decent player, but the ability to split your attention and multitask the way that these guys do at this level, you know, when you're watching it, it's already slowed down so much than when you're playing it. But then to be able to pull off all those interactions, to make all those decisions while managing your elixir in the moment is still one of my favorite things. And you just saw right there, Mugi, perfect offense on the right-hand side while conserving enough elixir to play the best defense he possibly could on the left. And that's why he is our world champion, our defending world champion. And yeah, we got a World Finals matchup here between these two guys. I'm just having a good time now that my now that my computer and power is working.
Yeah, and I'm very happy that it is because, you know, I didn't want to enjoy it all by myself. I feel like that's selfish. And yes, I'm sharing it with, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 people, but you know, it's better if it's 3,001, 4,001 people.
That means a lot to me. And yeah, I was going to be super bummed if I'd been here for basically every moment of the Royale Masters Gold Edition and then I miss our grand finals. And that's exactly where we are right now, guys. $10,000 going to the winner of this match. Golden tickets in hand for both of them, and now Lucas finds himself in the spot of having to win out this set if he wants to stay alive in Royale Masters. And a mini P.E.K.K.A to meet a Hog Rider. Not exactly what Lucas wants here early on, and I'm very curious what this mini P.E.K.K.A means. Could we be going to Elixir Pump? Nope, never mind. Already going to stop me in my tracks right there. Giant in the back.
Oh.
First Giant we've seen in the tournament, AC?
That is exactly correct. Giant mini P.E.K.K.A. This does bring up a load of opportunities. He could be running Pump with this deck because, you know, you can have Giant Pump. But we do see Giant Graveyard,
wow.
And this used to be one of my most favorite decks to use. There's so much potential with early offense, and we see it right here. The Log plus Archer Queen cleans that Graveyard up beautifully, but that is so much damage from the Giant and the Musketeer.
There was a Fire Spirit played for defense by Lucas, but the Snowball hit the Fire Spirit, and then the Skellies took it out of play. And that is why we're seeing exactly what we're seeing on that tower in the bottom right. 474 HP remains in an elimination game here for Lucas, and it's all on the back of a Snowball to take out a Fire Spirit.
Yeah, it's crazy that one interaction, I mean, if that timing is off by even a hair, he's looking at, you know, a tower still with 1,500 HP. Instead, that tower is going to be gone unless something crazy happens. He uses the Electro Spirit to take out the bats, but the Graveyard will still clean up nicely. And 2254 plus a Musketeer or mini P.E.K.K.A plus Snowball on defense, I don't think Lucas is going to be able to get the damage.
There's just no way. I mean, we were talking about Clash Royale replicating chess in terms of resignations, and this does feel like a moment where if that was an option, Lucas would probably just resign, as he's already got his golden ticket, and this next 45 seconds is probably going to be pretty agonizing for him, trying to create any semblance of offense.
Yeah, not even going to try and get aggressive. He could have, I mean, really, he could have done Graveyard plus Giant in the pocket. Instead, just going to try and win the game the way he wants to win it. Mini P.E.K.K.A will knock him down. 25 seconds left. He will have the Mini P.E.K.K.A for the next push, and that's exactly what he needs. Giant to body block, Giant to protect, and it should be a Giant for the victory.
Yeah, and you saw there the predictive arrows come out on top of that Fire Spirit. Hog Rider gets one hit there, but mini P.E.K.K.A to respond. And while Lucas is the winner of our golden ticket, it is Mugi who's going to take that $10,000 prize, and now he gets bragging rights to say, look, I got one golden ticket given to me, and I got one golden ticket that I earned on my own. Lucas and Mugi both going to the Clash Royale League World Finals in 2022.
We have our 6 players locked up, and we have our 1 player locked up. Mugi going to be able to come away with a victory, staying in the winner's bracket, not even allowing it to get to a second set, barely allowing, you know, one game, what did he go in this? I think like 10-2 overall or 9-2 overall. I mean, what a run that Mugi had. And I mean, to cap it off with Giant Graveyard is it's wonderful to see. I haven't seen that deck be used in a competition probably over a year.
Not too dissimilar for the way that he ended our 2021 World Finals in style, bringing out the Balloon Freeze Bowler with Baby Drag and Inferno Dragon to take home that $200,000 prize now decides to come out with Giant GY at the end of our Royale Masters Gold Edition. Mugi, Arden Toas, Mohammed Light, Gens Aslan, Samuel Basoto, and Lucas will be at our World Finals fighting for $1 million cash prize. And you see right there the matchup for Mugi. You got the Skarmy, you got the Snowball, you got the Mini P.E.K.K.A, you got the Musketeer. You've got all the answers you need to stop that incoming hog. And then in terms of defending that graveyard, well, if that Snowball comes down and hits your Fire Spirit, you're in a lot of trouble. And that's all Mugi needed early on in this game number 4 to win that $10,000 prize.
I still see YouTube comments or, TikTok comments or Instagram comments talking about, oh, Mugi shouldn't have used Lumberloon to win it. And obviously, you have to laugh when you see that. And you just know people are going to be upset. Giant Graveyard to win, you can't win any other way. But, it doesn't really matter how you get your victory. It matters how you play. It matters how you do overall in the entire tournament. And just special gameplay from Mugi. This is the Mugi that we want to be seeing, that, he's heating up. As the World Finals comes, he gets better, and I love seeing that.
Let's take a look here at our bracket. And you know what, AC, I'm with you, man. I'm not a big fan of Giant GY or Lumberloon Freeze, but to bring them out is very, very unpredictable. And there you see it right now. You can look at the path that Mugi went on. 2-1 over Titone, 2-0 over Wallace, 2-1 over Lucas, and then 3-1 over Lucas. He only dropped one game in any set. That was the most that he could drop really up until this final set, because he was only in best of threes based off of excellence. And then for Lucas, 2-1 over Furkan, 2-0 over Greco, and then he loses to Mugi, gets sent down below, and then goes back against Greco for the 3-1, then meets Mugi in our finals. 3-1 again for the Japanese player, for the defending world champion, and for the man that takes home $10,000 here at the end of the day. But not a bad day for Lucas as well. AC, he walks away with 6K, is that correct?
That is correct. I can actually repeat all 8 if you would like.
Let's just go for the top 3.
Okay, well, $10,000 and no golden ticket pieces has already earned it. $6,000 and a golden ticket to TRB Lucas. And Greco still going to walk away with $3,000 and the opportunity to get a World Finals berth in the upcoming weeks.
And that is going to do it for us here at the Royale Masters Gold Edition. Really quickly, just some business, some housekeeping to take care of. A week from yesterday is when that 20-win challenge is going to start. Make sure you catch every episode of 3 Crowns out there. We're going to be following along with the entire Clash Royale League qualifier as well as the World Finals. And I saw you starting to point. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Turn on notifications. Go follow Royale Masters on Twitter and go join their Discord. You never know what's going to be coming in 2023, and I love everything that Royale Masters has done. Dawson was an incredible admin along with our whole admin team. Tasty Bacon as our producer made sure that things were always running smoothly. Josh and I were always informed, and he always had our backs when, who knows, if my power went out, whatever was going to happen, Tasty was always there for us. For the entire Royale Masters team, myself, Joshua, AC, Sharon, this has been the Royale Masters Gold Edition. Congratulations to Mugi and Lucas. We'll see you guys at World Finals, and for the rest of you, we'll see you in that Clash Royale League qualifier. And as always, keep on clashing.